Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto makes Fem-Kyuubi and Hinata his lovers. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
By the time October 10th arrived, the training mission with Jiraiya was just getting started. Naruto was left alone on his birthday for another year as the pervert, as usual, was out in the local nightlife attempting to win over the ladies. He believed that this year would have been different because he now had friends, but because of the fox demon that was trapped inside of him, he was never able to get a break. Perhaps some of the leftover sake Jiraiya forgot he left in the hotel room the last time he was inebriated after he ultimately concluded that extreme training would be the answer. Naruto sat at the edge of a cliff near where he had been training earlier and swiftly downed the fowl, tasting fluid, feeling it burn his throat. Well, happy birthday to me, here's to yet another lonely year. He threw the empty sake bottle off the precipice and stood at its edge, silently watching it plummet to its death. After a few minutes, he felt very receptive to any ideas that came to him because of the combination of his dehydration and the potent alcohol that was now coursing through his veins. He swayed on inebriated legs and muttered, that bottle sure looks peaceful down there, maybe I could have that same peace. As he pitched forward slowly, Naruto felt the soothing autumn breeze while keeping his arms straight out to his sides. He never even saw the ground coming to take him away from his life because the vertigo of his fall never reached him through the haze of the alcoholic influence, even though the wind through his hair grew stronger. The wind abruptly stopped, and the young blonde found himself standing in front of the Kyuubi's unsightly steel cage, his longtime foe. He saw a flash of light come from the cage as he fell backwards into a drug-induced slumber. Go away, you stupid fox. You have caused me so much pain and I just want it to end. Naruto was lying comfortably on the thick grass of the clearing when he woke up to find a lush forest all around him. He felt so secure and at peace in the forest that he felt as though he was in heaven. Even the sound of gentle, soft voices drifting across the fragrant wind began to reach him. A recognizable soft voice filled with concern said, "Naruto-kun, are you awake? Please answer me." When he turned to face the voice, he saw a young woman of his age with jet black hair and a chest that was almost as attractive as Tsunade's, but oddly, she was many times more attractive. At first, he wasn't sure why. His gaze strayed down her well-proportioned hips and landed on a tidy patch of hair at the intersection of her comparatively long, thin legs. He paused for a few seconds, blushed, and turned away when he saw that she was completely nude. He turned back and concentrated especially hard on her beautiful face, asking, "Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Does my appearance bother you?" The young woman gave him a smile before changing into a young, pink-haired woman wearing the same outfit. Yeah, it does bother me a bit." When Naruto saw the tops of her breasts, her cheeks flushed, but she didn't want to look any closer. She said, "Is this better?" "No, how about," she said, changing her form once more to that of the young, long-haired, blonde kunoichi. "No," was the prompt response. Maybe you like older women," she said, changing into a completely nude Anko this time, causing Naruto's cheeks to redden once more. No, this time, she changed into a smaller girl with short, midnight, blue, almost black hair. "Then how about," she said. He was a little perplexed as to why she lacked hair when he saw some from the first form, but he also found it fascinating. His eyes darted uncontrollably to her, not too big, but not too small, mounds of flesh before they continued down. She pressed her fingers together and asked, her cheeks slightly flushed, "D.doul, like this F form better not, Naruto, K.kun." He quickly turned away from that form as his face flushed deeply. He screamed in embarrassment, "No, please, it isn't the form, it's the fact that you aren't wearing any clothes." The young woman returned to her former form, a smile spreading across her face at the information she had discovered. He rolled back over and admired the sophisticated white kimono with silver embossed designs that was cut extremely low at the neck, exposing a lot of cleavage. "Okay, I have some clothes on this time." When he saw that only half of the kimono was there, he coughed on the air he was breathing and took another look at her bare lower part before turning away. As the remainder of the kimono vanished into thin air, she chuckled at his face. He carefully turned back to make sure she was wearing her full dress before attempting to sit up. "I'm fully clothed now, Naruto-kun, you can look." He crashed back to the ground, his attempt unsuccessful. With a sudden appearance of a tree to lean on, the young woman was by his side in an instant and helped him sit up. He was about to thank her for her assistance when he saw that she was still grinning and very near to him. Her hand extended and lightly touched his lips with a finger, and then she gave him a gentle kiss before slowly withdrawing. In an attempt to overcome his feelings of astonishment and joy at the unexpected love, he said, thank you. But who are you and where are we? She moved away from him so that he could see her at once. In a dejected tone, she said to him, take a look at me again and figure it out for yourself. He took a moment to admire her exquisitely designed silk kimono and her bare cleavage. He was getting sidetracked and wasn't getting anywhere with trying to figure out who she was, until he saw something moving behind her. He turned his attention to the source of the movement and saw 9 tails swishing behind him, each with a hint of black, like her hair, and a shimmering blood-red coat. He glanced back at her face quickly and saw that 2 fox-like red ears with black tips stood out among her long black hair. She gave him a big smile and rushed to sit next to him, asking, so am I supposed to believe that I have a sexy fox demon inside me? Leaning her head on his shoulder, she took his hand in hers. She cooed from her cozy spot, well, I just wanted you to know that you have a female fox sealed in you, but I guess you think I'm sexy. I like that. I'm still confused. I've met the fox before and it clearly wasn't you, he was pure evil. Naruto was thinking about this while secretly savoring the soft hand entwined with his. Well, I can guarantee you that what you met was still me, but I was still stuck in a bloodlust rage. That rage finally wore off on your 16th birthday, allowing me to return to the way I am. Just in case you're wondering, no, I am not free. I can just take my human form outside the cage, not any chakra. He asked, wiping the smile from her face. Okay, so you appear very, not evil. So why did you attack Konoha? Well, just so you know, I'm close to 9,500 years old. It has easily been 5,000 years since I have enjoyed the company of someone. Since I was always fond of humans and their strong emotions on love, I decided to come to Konoha since it was to be so peaceful, and I really liked the forest. I came into the village and was thrilled to watch how everyone interacted with each other, especially the couples. I continued walking through the village and found a young man by himself and thought he may be lonely like I was, so I talked to him. He seemed quite nice, so I accompanied him, at his request, outside the walls. That was when things changed. Naruto was intrigued by the fact that this powerful the demon actually maintained his expression. Listened to her tale. He did some weird ritual and killed a small fox kid, which just showed up at the time, in front of me. I was enraged at the blatant murder of my kin, and somehow that ritual of his was meant to amplify and trap that feeling within me, so I was then out for blood, leading to the attack. Your F.A. Yandaime saw everything after my first arrival in that viewing ball and apologized to me before sealing me away in you. I'm sorry, it was my fault, you were all alone. The demon that had attacked the village and demanded blood during his battles was now apologizing while sobbing on Naruto's shoulder. When he combined that with her previous dejected expression, he was easily persuaded that she was telling the truth. Gazing at her tear-streaked face, he tightened his hold on her hand. You were lonely, a feeling I know all too well, so it wasn't your fault for trusting that guy. Do you know who he is? I'd like to return the pain he caused. I know it's corny, but Orochimaru is the ideal fall guy. Yes, Naruto-kun, and you already have an idea who he is. He sighed in disappointment, saying, so it was the hubby. Teme, snake bastard, I thought as much. So what should I call you then? Kyuubi. Chan? She looked horrified at the thought right away. She sobbed as tears streamed down her cheeks once more, indicating that she needed more than a sibling relationship. She was missing the love of a romantic one. No, I do not want to be seen as your sister, anything but that. After giving the blonde a smile, she put her head back on his shoulder and said, okay, I won't look at you like a sister, Q-chan. She was about to fall asleep when she said, I haven't slept in 16 years. Will you let me sleep on your shoulder? It feels so comfortable. She made a sound that indicated she was completely happy with that before they both went to sleep, the loneliness gone from both of them. Only if you don't mind me sleeping as well. Naruto awoke to the terrible smell of sanitizers and a splitting headache. He was in a hospital once more. He detested hospitals because of the awful food, the heartless staff, and, most importantly, the small number of visitors that made him feel even more isolated. He sighed, as if he was anticipating something different when he woke up. I suppose it was all a dream, he thought sorrowfully, recalling the tranquility he experienced when he was not by himself. He called the vixen out of his head and said, no, Naruto-kun, it wasn't a dream. I slept very well on you, thank you. He asked aloud, attracting the attention of the white-haired man in the room, so it wasn't a dream? What wasn't a dream? The pervert inquired. Nothing, Arrow. Senin, why am I in the hospital? Naruto's face fell when he realized, I found you at the bottom of a cliff near death. How the hell did you manage to fall off a cliff? I didn't fall. Throw a little alcohol and a whole lot of loneliness together on your birthday and people will do stupid things. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Jiraiya told him, somewhat irate, so you did do that, sorry kid. You do know that if you died I'd never hear the end of it from Tsunade. He responded with blatant sarcasm, gee, thanks Arrow. Sennin, wouldn't you be so inconvenienced by my untimely death? Naruto disregarded this and continued, saying, you're damn right. So how long was I out? As the pervert left the room, Naruto let out a disgusted sigh and said, about 3 days. Even at your extreme healing rate you won't be able to leave here for another 2, so get some rest, I've got research to do. How can I get back in there, Q-chan? Wanting to escape the isolation of the empty hospital room, he called into his mind. Close your eyes and visualize yourself in this situation. He closed his eyes and allowed his thoughts to wander. Upon opening them again, he found himself lying in the soft grass with Q's head resting on his chest. Tucking closer to him, she said, I like your imagination Naruto-kun. Unaware that he had put his arm across her shoulders, he asked, what do you mean? She kissed the base of his chin and said, well, the place that we are in is basically your imagination, so when you thought of being here you imagined me with you, causing him to twitch at the close touch. Q-chan, can I ask you a weird question? Naruto considered his question, trying to phrase it correctly, but realized he was a direct approach type of person. Sure, you can ask me anything. What is sex? Arrow. Sennin always talks about it and I just figured it was something perverted. What, you don't know? She exclaimed, staring at his face in shock. No, I think we had a class at the academy about it, but the teacher said I could skip it and still get a passing grade, so I did. That and the door always seemed to not open for the duration of classes. Afterwards all the guys and girls were acting weird around each other. You are in my head, so why didn't you know that already? He said with his eyes closed. I could go through your memories, but I don't want to be that way. If there is something you want me to know, you should tell me yourself. Now for your answer, would you like to try it? She responded with a grin on her face. I'd rather not, until I know exactly what it is at least. She gave him a covert smile and said, okay, fine, but I will probably need visual aids so you can't look away from me while I teach you. The young-looking fox woman stood and walked away as if she were going to give a lesson, saying, sure, that's fine. Alright, time for your lesson. Sex can take many forms and can be perverted if done for the wrong reasons. Usually it is an act shared between a man and a woman who love each other greatly. This form of sex is commonly referred to as making love, and is the most satisfying of all the forms since all the love and affection each person has is shown through the act. Now in certain cases sex can be had with 2 women or 2 guys, but I'm definitely not fond of the latter and indifferent to the former and we'll avoid that for today, okay? She responded with a nod. Now another form of sex is commonly referred to as fucking. While it can be enjoyable, there usually isn't any extra emotions shared between them, and can be quite animalistic in roughness and in the pursuit of a few minutes of pleasure. It is quite rough and fast and afterwards one or both of the participants can feel dirty for their act, leaving it to be a very hollow experience. Now there is some gray area in between where 2 people can be not fully in love and still get the benefits like they were. But in some of those cases it can turn the relationship strictly physical since their emotional connection wasn't strong enough to sustain the relationship correctly and the 2 fall to the wayside. You understand? Sure, I guess, but what is it? I get it that it is a form of loving someone, but after that I'm lost. She watched him fidget under her gaze and grinned, saying, well, at least you grasped that part. Now I know you have seen a naked female, but do you really know what the difference really is between us, males and females? Hugh simply sighed and carried on with her lesson, saying, no, I really only know that somehow only women can have children and have larger chests. Well, that saves some time. Sex is actually for reproducing, you know, having children, but there is a great amount of pleasure found in it that it would be stupid to do it only when you want children. Anyways, time to describe the female body. The breasts of a female, or their chest, are there for the purpose of feeding her baby, but outside of that they are sensitive to touch, making them a common focal point before, during, or even after sex, and nearly all men are attracted to them. Now the only other thing really different with women is below the waist. You know what you have down there and you saw that females don't, and that is the main ingredient for sex. The female body. It should, since she has been a woman for almost 9,500 years. Naruto blushed and said, so you're saying my, thing is used for sex? She said in a humorous tone, I thought you were kidding before, but you really don't know anything, do you? Hey, don't make fun of me, It isn't my fault I didn't have anyone to tell me this stuff, and the kids my age never talked about it either, he argued. Sorry, Naruto-kun, I didn't mean it that way. Now then, to continue on. Yes, your thing, as you elegantly put it, is used for sex. Now when you see a cute girl, or a naked one, do you notice a change in yourself? I don't know, I never really paid attention. What, these idiots can teach a young man to kill, but they can't even teach them how to be a real man and notice something so obvious. I guess I need to bring out the visual aids. Now remember, you can't look away, she pointedly reminded them. Yeah, I remember. Q gave him a smile before snapping her fingers to make her entire outfit vanish once more. Naruto blushed instantly and turned his head away, but she approached him and brought his face back to the front. I said you couldn't look away, remember? He asked, nodding shamefully while maintaining eye contact with her. As she made them bounce around for emphasis, she told him, now you know these are breasts. She looked at him and was a little taken aback that he had given her exactly what she had been waiting for so fast, especially since he had invented the seductive jutsu and should be accustomed to this. Now do you feel anything different? As he continued to look over her body, he answered, not really. She approached him with a frustrated sigh and seized the big bulge that had developed in his trousers. She surprised him by holding him with light pressure and asking, this down here, you realize the difference now? She smiled at him and began to gently rub him through his trousers, saying, yes, I do, definitely. Can you stop? She teased in a sensual voice, why does this not feel good? He yelled, yes. I mean no. I mean just stop now, okay? And yanked her hand away from him. After chuckling a little, she hid behind her legs and sat in the grass across from him. Naruto looked shocked and waited for more details. Now that you know how your part feels, I can give you the last lesson. A woman has another hole that guys don't. Naruto had to force himself not to look away in embarrassment as she repositioned herself and spread her legs open slightly, revealing her more private parts. She illustrated her point by slowly putting one finger in her opening and taking it out again, making sure to exaggerate the action, saying, to have sex your thing has to slide into the woman here. So now that you know what sex is, would you like to try? I promise you'll enjoy it, she was joking. He turned away, his face permanently flushed, and said, not that it isn't very intriguing, but I'll pass. From what you told me earlier, I only want to do this with someone I love wholeheartedly, or it could possibly turn me into Ero. Senin. She approached him with a smile, shoved him onto his back, and then stroked his bulge once more. Her voice was seductive as she urged, are you sure? I know you would enjoy it. He took her hand in his and gulped loudly. When he said, be it as it may, I don't want to do it. Can you put your clothes back on? Her smile vanished as the clothes began to re-form. She was still holding her hand as she turned to go. She smiled again and lay back down next to him, placing her head over his heart and listening to the rhythm. Just because I don't want to have sex with you doesn't mean that you have to leave. I'll be trying to figure this out for quite some time now in the future, so just stay with me for a while. Her hand strayed back down to his trousers after resting on his stomach. As she reluctantly put it back on his stomach, he reminded her, above the belt Q-chan. She remained there until they both fell asleep. When Naruto woke up, he was still in his mindscape and had no idea what time it was outside because everything in his mind appeared to be the same. The young fox demon was still dozing on his chest, and dare he say it, her fuzzy ears made her look adorable. Curiously, he reached up and touched the tip of her ear, grinning as he saw it twitch. He tried again, but received the same reaction. Her hand swiftly stopped him before he could touch her again. She put his hand at the base of her ear before he could apologize. Without leaving his chest, she said, it tickles up there, but you can rub it lower where it feels better. Although Naruto was unable to pinpoint the reason, he found pleasure in stroking the smooth, soft fur with his hands. It was clear that she felt the same way, as she let out a low growl that sounded more like a purr. Q-chan? She gave a cute growl. He continued to pet her fur as he asked, why did you want to have sex with me? Well, you see, sex is a very powerful thing. Once you have it, you want more. After not being with someone for over 5,000 years, I could probably screw almost anything, but there is one thing more powerful than sex, and that is love. I have seen everything you have gone through, and I truly want to be here for you. I know how caring and sincere you were over the years, and just the fact that you could forgive me after the pain I caused made me care for you. I care for you very deeply, and if this wasn't so, I wouldn't have offered to be with you in that capacity. Just so you know, I'll always be here, and when you come to care for me, like I do for you, my offer will always stand. For a demon that would scream for me to kill, you sure have taken a turn in attitude, but I guess you have protected me even when you wanted to kill, so I believe you. I don't know how I would want to be involved with you, but right now my loneliness is gone and that is thanks to you. For now, let's just be friends, but before that I was wondering if you would kiss me once more. She tilted her head toward his eyes. Do friends still make out? No. Do they hug? Yes. Do they sleep on one's shoulder if they are tired? Probably. Do friends hold hands? I think they can. She moved close to him and took his breath, gently pressing her lips to his and working them slowly until she broke away, leaving him breathless and smiling. Okay, she said. So I guess we are just friends now then Naruto.kun. Although I am 9,500 years old, I am fully mortal now since I die when you do and I will age as you do. You will be the last person I will ever see. Just remember that in all actuality I am now like any other woman except I'm stuck within you, so don't count me out when you look for a girl in the future. With a sweet grin she put her head on her chest. So then, since we are friends now, you won't try to sneak a feel, right? He asked. Well, Naruto.kun, I am a fox, so there is no guaranteeing that, she said, flashing her cliched fox grin, revealing her cunning. Naruto focused on leaving and faded out of his mindscape with a single thought. You should probably wake up in the real world now, it should be time to go. What kind of trouble have I gotten myself into? Fearing that the attractive vixen would not leave him alone for the remainder of the training session with the pervert, he asked himself this question. In the hospital, Naruto awoke feeling more rested and rejuvenated than he had in a long time. Regretfully, it was time to resume training with the pervert. The white-haired Sannin walked slowly into the room and called out, Hey brat, quit lying around, there is training to do. Yeah, whatever arrow. Sennin, just out of curiosity, is there a way to manipulate my seal so Kyuubi can take a form outside of my body? If there was no chakra transferred, just consciousness, there wouldn't be a threat. I think we could learn stuff in exchange for roaming outside of my mind. Naruto offered an explanation. Actually there is, I'm guessing Yondaime figured this may become useful to you in the future and created such a seal to be placed over yours. If I do this it will hurt worse than the last seal you had placed on you. The one the ass did in Forest of Death. Also the seal will take about 2 years before it will be able to be used. If it is attempted to be used before the time is up, the seal will collapse, locking away any chance of the limited freedom. Jiraiya informed him that he was attempting to avoid its existence. The blonde asked, okay, what is the limited freedom you speak of? Basically the Kyuubi will have a solid shadow clone-like body and won't be able to go but 30 yards from you without dispersing. Also there will be a side effect where the Kyuubi will be able to see and hear what you do with less effort after the seal is placed, so it can talk to you without you consciously going to him. Other than that there are no limitations on time allowed outside. Jiraiya explained. Without giving it much thought, Naruto declared, okay, let's do it. Wait, Naruto.kun. Why would you injure yourself? This will hurt you. Q yelled from inside. He told her, I'll stop at nothing to support my friends, and besides, you'll need to have a body out here if you truly want me to see you as another female. Do you really want this? Her tone was solemn as she asked. Yes, Q-chan is. All right, then, gratitude, 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 she joyfully screamed out in his mind. Jiraiya pressed his palm into the existing seal after finishing the last of the markings on his hand. Naruto screamed in agony as the marks from his hands were transferred onto the seal in a very faint color in a flash of light. Jiraiya left him to do research once more, but this time Naruto was content and went into a normal sleep where he had a peaceful dream. Okay, the seal is complete. When the markings I made are the same shade of color and darkness of your seal, it will be complete. As anticipated, Naruto grew stronger and faster over the course of the following 12 months of training. He also got to know the vixen better in his mind, and she taught him more things that he would not have learned without his parents. Additionally, she taught him more things that his parents would never want to discuss, so he never considered her to be family. His dreams became a little more lively after learning everything there was to know about sex, as some fascinating scenarios were being acted out. Although each dream was slightly different from the others, one thing was always the same. Only Sakura, Anko, Hinata, and of course Q appeared. 95% of these dreams were sexual in nature, with each one trying to get him to have sex with them. They were the only ones from whom he received a reaction when Q was displaying them earlier. Every time she took off her bra, he would always stop her from continuing, even though the dreams with Sakura would involve kissing and some touching. The same thing would happen when Anko entered the dreams, but at least she was able to get down to just her underwear. Dreams about Q would appear more plausible, but she would only be stopped once she was fully nude and reaching for him. However, The dreams based on Hinata were by far the most unpredictable. Erratic, not erotic. She would sometimes only get to kiss him before being turned away, but other times she would get all the way undressed and start to move in on his bare lower parts before he stopped her, making her the group's furthest member. 1 year and a month after Q was made public, this night was another Hinata dream, but Naruto was growing tired of them all. Sure, they were thrilling and seductive, but all of your dreams couldn't be about sex. When Hinata was kissing him passionately in his dream, Naruto finally connected with her. All 4 of his night guests kissed him in precisely the same way. He reached up to the top of Dream Hinata's head and began to gently rub the side while she continued to kiss him. Before letting out an uncontrollable purr, Dream Hinata paused her kiss and met his eyes directly. "We can stop being friends now if you will allow me to have real dreams again. Just keep the affection above the waist," he stated to her. Instead of Hinata standing inches from his face, the gorgeous nine-tailed demon with her ruby red eyes was staring at him as his dream scene vanished into a verdant forest with a soft carpet of grass. Through the purr she was still emitting from the constant attention to her fluffy fox ear, she questioned, "You really mean it?" He stopped touching her ear to respond to her question, rolled her away from him, pinned her to the grass, and kissed her tender red lips. "All right, Fox. I don't want any passes at my equipment and I want to have my real dreams, but feel free to accompany me within them, just don't change them. Also keep your clothes on," he was essentially telling. She sulked and complied with his request, saying, "Fine. But you need to pet my ears and tails when we're together and I get a kiss each day." Agreed. He gave her another kiss and got up, dragging her along with him. "Now how about we get some ramen?" Her response, "Huh?" made Naruto chuckle. The scene changed once more to a small, welcoming restaurant where they entered holding hands. "Well, since I am still sleeping, I have my dreams to tend to, so I'm going to dream of eating ramen with a beautiful fox." The unconventional relationship between the Kyuubi vixen and her 18-year-old container has undoubtedly heated up over the course of another year. At this point, Naruto realized that he truly liked her, but he wasn't ready to confess his feelings because, once he did, there would be no force in the universe that could keep her away from him, even though a bigger part of him would no longer mind. Sometimes their kissing would get out of control, but Q wasn't always to blame. Occasionally, she ended up exposing her upper body without taking off her clothes. Fortunately or unfortunately, Naruto was able to stop their progress each time and bring things back under control. He did learn a lot of jutsu during his training period, and he also gained even more strength and speed, mostly without Q's assistance. With the exception of accessing her chakra, his demon didn't really aid him in training because she was determined to get into his pants whenever he had free time. What did you really expect from Jiraiya? He continued to be a pervert, though. He would continuously persuade Naruto to use more chakra from within than was safe for him. Unbeknownst to him, Naruto was in complete control and couldn't understand why he was so furious and just wanted to beat his ass when he talked about Hinata being fully legal and fair game for anyone in a few months. It was during one of these sessions that Naruto used the four-tailed form and almost killed the pervert, giving him the impression that Naruto had lost control. It was almost as if there was a secret guide for new 18s. Fortunately, Q has stayed out of his thoughts while he goes about his everyday business, with the exception of catching a glimpse of his equipment while taking a bath. If she hadn't, he would have to deal with a vengeful demon for being so protective of another woman. This brings us to the present, where Q and Naruto were both excited for the day and the teacher and student were prepared to set out on their return trip. "Hey Ero. Senin, is the seal ready?" "It looks like it to me." Asking his sensei, the 6 feet 0 inches blonde, muscular man wore an orange t-shirt and basic black pants. "I've told you not to call me that how many times?" the super pervert yelled. "I think I've told you to quit being a pervert a lot, Ero." Senin hollered back his pupil. They both turned their backs to each other out of defiance until Q reminded her container what they were asking. "So is the seal ready?" Without looking at the white-haired man, Naruto asked in a low voice. "Yes, it looks like it completed a few days ago." "How does it operate, then?" "You must execute a single cage bushin while directing the Kyuubi's chakra toward the seal." With his back to him, he explained, "The majority of the chakra used will be absorbed by the seal, reducing the chakra contained in the clone and tying it to you." The blonde made the appropriate hand signals and said, "Okay, let's give it a try." "Are you certain you want to release the demon in that manner?" Jiraiya inquired, to be certain because the Kyuubi might kill someone while they were asleep. "Trust me, there won't be a problem like that, Ero, Senin." When the jutsu was finally used, A huge shadowy creature loomed over the group in a puff of smoke, making Jiraiya almost throw up in confusion. However, when the smoke cleared, he saw a girl who was about 5 feet 8 inches and 18 years old, dressed in a dark blue kimono with a black dragon stitched into the silk that encircled her. The low dot-cut dress accentuated her ample chest and complemented her shoulder-length jet black hair and red furred fox features. The sight of the stunning young woman left the Sannin's mouth open, and his eyes almost burst from his head. "Everything is so alive," she exclaimed, darting around the camp and examining every insect and other wild creature as if it were her first time being outside. She then returned to Naruto's side, obviously beaming with joy. Still in disbelief, Jiraiya muttered, "She is the Kyuubi?" Not because she was far from a bloodthirsty demon, but rather because she is, well, is she and hot? "Yes, Arrow. Sennin, this is the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Chan, meet Arrow. Sennin." Introducing Naruto. She chirped enthusiastically, "Hi." As he approached her, the pervert's gaze landed on her protruding chest before meeting her vivid ruby-red eyes. The white-haired man immediately discovered an elegantly formed foot connecting with his crotch. "Well, hello beautiful, I'm sure being cooped up in this boring child has left you in need of a real man, since I know he wouldn't know what to do with a woman. He is probably gay since he doesn't like my books, so how about you and I get acquainted over, let's say a hot bath," he said. Before giving him a passionate kiss, she told him bluntly, "Let's get this straight, moron. Naruto-kun is definitely not gay, and I know he can please a woman correctly, and I will only allow him to view my naked body, and when he feels ready he will be the only one to make me feel like a woman again." As if nothing had happened, Jiraiya got up and started gathering his bags. When a blonde saw that Arrow Sennin was pain-free from that vicious attack, she exclaimed, "What the hell, Arrow Sennin, do you not have any balls?" The pervert responded, striking one of his crazy poses, "Well, I created a jutsu that protects my goods, and to top it all off, it nearly doubles my size to a whole 6 inches. Now I bet you were jealous of my manliness." 6 inches isn't something to be proud of, even with your jutsu you aren't even average. So basically the Sannin are a joke. One is clearly gay and stares at bodies of men. Another is a big-breasted old hag that uses a jutsu to hide herself, and lastly a pervert that is hung like a squirrel. Yeah, legendary indeed. He mocked him while continuing to be perplexed by his defied the man without a good response, saying, "Oh, and you were considered average, I bet you're lying about that." The vixen added, "Nope, he's above average and I look forward to seeing how it feels." Jiraiya abruptly changed the topic and Naruto flushed. Then he headed to the trail, saying, "Well, we best be going if we want to make Konoha by noon tomorrow." They decided to spend the night in a clearing off the road after making good time for the day. There always seems to be one of those. When Jiraiya turned to face his pupil, who was lying on the ground with a beautiful woman lying on top of him, her 9 fur tails wrapped around them for warmth, he became extremely envious. The man reflected, perhaps there is something to being in a long-term relationship. You never have to look for someone to join you at night. However, you couldn't simultaneously experience the pleasure of 2 women. Now that he was thinking about women and perversion, the pervert found it easy to fall asleep. The following morning, Naruto and Kyu awoke early, which was fortunate because Kyu's fur was all tangled from sleeping in a physics-based environment rather than a mindscape. Although she could have benefited from a few more days of the soothing activity, brushing out her fur took a lot of time, nearly an hour, to straighten out all 9 of her soft appendages. Before Naruto sat against a tree with his vixen leaning back on his chest from her spot between his legs while he held her from behind, they prepared breakfast because it was still early when they finished. She tried to press closer to his chest and said, "I love you, Naruto-kun." He kissed her delicate neck and replied, "I know you do, Kyu-chan." She pleaded, "Please don't stop." He complied silently and kept rubbing her neck with his lips as she purred and groaned softly for him, intensifying the sensation. They were split apart when Jiraiya's voice called out, "Time to go." The attractive fox yelled in protest, "Arrow Sennin," just when it started getting good. Then, he rushed up to him and tore up the notebook he was writing in frantically. She was about to kick him once more when she was yanked violently into a firm, warm chest. Naruto extended his hand for her to grasp, but she took his entire arm instead, holding on to it for the rest of the walk to the village. "Come on, Kyu-chan, let's get going. We'll finally be home today." The big gates of Konoha were forming on the horizon, so it was a little later in the afternoon than had been planned. Naruto was clearly getting excited about returning. as evidenced by his efforts to force himself to do more than simply run up to the gates. Well, there's home, but on the downside, Hugh-chan, you can't disguise yourself and they will surely not welcome you, especially when they see 9 foxtails. Naruto said with sadness. She kissed him deeply, sucking his tongue into her mouth for a few seconds before letting go with a sigh. I know Naruto-kun. It was very nice being out here with you. Bring me back out soon. I love you. She forced a dejected smile and kissed him on the lips before vanishing as her consciousness returned to him. I know you do. I'll bring you out as soon as we're alone again. Does everything operate as it should? He prayed in his head that the technique would not have any negative effects. She called back and said, yes, it did, love, thank you for asking. The two travelers then proceeded to walk to the village, but after hardly getting back on his feet, Jiraiya's curiosity overcame him. He smiled lecherously and asked, so, have you done her yet? Which greatly enraged the blonde. Not like it is any of your business, but no, I have not done her, nor will I probably ever just do her. If I go that far with her, there will be much more to it than just doing it. He responded with rage. What type of man are you? If I was in your position, I would do her over and over and over and over. Shut up, Arrow. Senin. The pervert was swiftly silenced for the remainder of the walk to the gates after receiving a powerful punch to the face. The gates opened as they should, and Naruto greeted the guards before sprinting into the village and climbing the nearest tall building to get a feel for the place. He glanced around the village, seeing that everything had been fixed after the sound invasion, but then he saw Tsunade's face on the monument, and his reaction was a mix of laughter and disgust. I think they really should have forced her to pose with her real face instead of her fake young one, he grumbled to himself. Well, compared to me, she is still a child, and you seem to enjoy playing with me a lot. Yeah, that's different. She's just trying to hide who she really is. Oh, and I'm not? I am a fox demon, do you recall? You can't have both, so choose one. I thought you wanted to be seen as a woman and not the demon. She laughed and said, okay, I'll choose the one that will get you in bed with me more quickly. Naruto chose to greet his former teammate after spotting a flash of pink hair and choosing not to reply. Hi, Sakura, he shouted, and the girl turned around, grinning broadly and waving joyfully at him as he rushed up to her. She smiled and said, hi Naruto, you have changed a bit, you, like, not wearing all orange. Yes, I needed a vacation from them because the orange was beginning to irritate my eyes. How have things been going for you in the last few years? With a hint of nervousness, he asked. Just then, a brunette strolled up to them, her privates uncovered only by a few clouds. I've been doing great. I've learned many things about being a medic from Tsunade and have gotten much stronger. What have we got here? With a seductive grin, the brunette asked Naruto. Sakura admired Konohamaru's maturity and said, hey, Konohamaru, I see you got that jutsu down efficiently, but you should really stop using such childish jutsu. The child dropped the technique. Why? Asked the child. Because there is a jutsu that is far more perverted. The blonde was called out before he was struck in the face with a powerful punch. Naruto. The medic screamed. I was only kidding, Sakura. Damn you. He defended himself from the tiny crater he was lying in, saying, I didn't have enough time to create another one with all my training. She offered him a hand, which he accepted, and helped him stand up. She was surprised to discover that he had not been physically injured by a punch that would have rendered a normal man crippled. Oh, sorry. No, that's okay. I have to go check in with Ba-chan now. See you later, Sakura. He called, then turned and fled. She caught up with him and hurried to the office, shouting, wait, I'll come with you. Naruto treated Sakura to some ramen at Ichiraku's after the formation of Team Kakashi, simply because he had promised himself a few years ago that he would take her out on a date and wasn't about to break a promise. After they finished their meal, they briefly discussed their training before they got up and parted ways. He wandered the streets, still receiving some freshly renewed glares, until he arrived at his old apartment, where he entered after unlocking the door and sighing at the amount of dust that had accumulated everywhere. Cleaning was going to take a long time, but luckily he remembered to empty the refrigerator, turn it off, and prop the door open so it wouldn't be a hazard area. Then he remembered again that he didn't do that, but there it was. This was something to think about later. He kept thinking about the apartment and ended up in his room, which seemed to have no dust at all and even had new sheets on the bed, which he never had any in the first place. In any case, it was a good thing because he was exhausted, and the small apartment felt lonely as usual, but this time he had a remedy for that. He channeled chakra into the updated seal and executed the jutsu that revealed the beautiful female demon. He was a little taken aback when she showed up wearing a pale silk nightgown that was just see-through enough to show the contrast in color of her enormous breasts. She twirled around once for him, laughing joyfully at his answers, and he was about to ask her why she was wearing it, but he realized it didn't matter because he had brought her here only to push out the loneliness at night, and she was attractive. "Are you prepared for bed, Naruto-kun?" She cooed as she stepped closer to him. Suddenly he stepped up to her and planted his lips to hers, surprising her greatly since she could only count on one hand the times he was the aggressor in intimate touching. She usually had to do something to start it. You want to go further?" After releasing the kiss, feeling extremely hot at the time, she asked. She followed him to the bed and, after settling in, she pushed her hand under the waist of his pants and grasped his rock. Hard shaft. Not really, I think we should just sleep." She nodded disappointedly and snuggled up next to him again, placing her head above his heart. Naruto grunted, reminding her, above the waist. She reluctantly released her grip and laid the hand on his stomach. "I love you, Naruto-kun." He answered drowsily, I know." The vixen soon followed him as he fell asleep. Q chose to lie motionless for a while longer after waking up the following morning to the pleasant sensation of having her ears rubbed, but her tails began swishing joyfully, revealing her state of consciousness. Naruto whispered to her, "So you think you could get away with pretending to be sleeping while I rubbed your ears?" "Well, actually no, but it was worth a try." She sighed in disappointment on her response. Good. She thought he would stop, but he persisted in caving into her fuzzy fox ears, which made her growl and purr for the next 10 minutes. She lay in bed for a few minutes before going out into the living room, kitchen and beginning to clean, but to her dismay, he stopped and got up to do the routine morning tasks. When Naruto came back a few minutes later, he saw her cleaning and approached to stop her. "Chan, stop cleaning, you are a guest, there isn't a need for you to do that," he berated her. "That is where you are wrong, Naruto-kun. I live here now with you, so it is just as much my place as it is yours." After making a quick hand gesture, 20 Naruto clones materialized and raced through the apartment at breakneck speed, leaving it immaculate in less than 2 minutes. "Fine, but I'm helping." As soon as he sat down on the old couch, she gave him a cheerful smile and sat on his lap, facing him, before kissing him. "There, now let's just sit for a while." She simply put her head in the crook of his neck and gave him a tight hug after the kiss before dozing off with a smile. He let her sleep for a while before deciding it was time to go out and see what had changed and perhaps run into some of his old friends. She slept through it all as he carried her gently to his bed and put her down. He kissed her forehead and left the door open before leaving. As anticipated, Naruto felt the vixen's consciousness return to him after only about 30 yards from his apartment. She pouted in a frustrated tone, "That wasn't very nice, Naruto-kun. I was expecting to wake up in your arms and I find myself waking up back in here? I'm sorry, Chan, but you were sleeping so soundly that I couldn't bring myself to wake you. I didn't know you would wake up when you came back to me." "Fine, I'll let you off the hook this time, but I want to see you before I go back in the future," she told him. "All right, you understand." Naruto saw an odd-looking man after concluding his chat with his inner demon. He was completely covered, with only his sunglasses showing through his high collar and hood. Naruto thought he knew him from somewhere, but he was unable to identify the person. The majority of this encounter is taken from the manga, and it will be the final bit of unoriginal material. After recognizing the group, Q thought, "Please don't this group, anyone but them, I don't need the competition now." The man said, "It's been a while, Naruto." His response, still attempting to determine where he had previously seen him, was, "Who are you? It has been a long time since we've seen each other, but you should at least recognize the face of a comrade, because it is hurtful if you don't," mentioned the man wearing a mask. When Shino's peculiar speech pattern jogged Naruto's memory, he asked, Wait, could you be, Shino?" "Finally you recognize me," hollered the blonde shinobi. "Well, it might be a little easier if I could actually see something other than sunglasses to identify you." At that moment, there was a faint thundering that sounded like a stampede as a large white dog leapt into the space, accompanied by his partner. "Is that you, Kiba?" he inquired, startled by his dog's size. The rider, dressed primarily in leather, dismounted the beast. Kiba answered, I thought it was you from that smell." In defense of himself, Naruto yelled, "Hey, what is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, it's just that you smell like, well, you." He went on to say, "Oh thanks, I guess, but what have you been feeding Akamaru? He's huge." Guess I never noticed." The blonde's attention was drawn to a nearby fence when she heard a soft squeak. "I heard he was back, But I wasn't planning on seeing him so soon, so please don't do that now. I'm not ready to meet him yet. What should I say or do? Hinata was shaking at the prospect of seeing her crush again after all these years, and this worried her. God forbid, how could he have failed to notice them, particularly her? I'm scared of what might happen, Kyu asked herself. Naruto hurried around the bend and met the dark-haired girl directly. Over the hood of her thin jacket, her nearly black hair cascaded down to her mid-back, ending just past the waist of her loose-fitting capri pants. He questioned, "What are you doing hiding over here, Hinata?" as he stood inches from her petite 5 feet 3 inches frame. She turned bright red and began to fall over immediately, with beads of sweat streaming down her face. Naruto grabbed her in his arms before she hit the ground. Why does she act that way around Naruto every time? Kiba questioned aloud. Kiba's question was entirely ignored as Shino uncharacteristically complained. I can't believe he recognized you and Hinata right away, aw man. Hey everyone, are you on a mission or what? Still holding Hinata above the ground, Naruto posed the question. No, today we were just getting together for a little sparring. As the blonde gazed at the pale body in front of him, Kiba said in a loud voice, you can leave her with us and we'll take care of her. Well, I'll just wait for her to wake up if everything seems the same to you. The blonde offered for the two of you to go spar. Yeah sure, thanks Naruto, see ya. Kiba then leapt onto Akamaru and drove off, while Shino simply vanished, leaving Hinata by herself in Naruto's arms. He got up and carried her to the big tree, where he sat in the grass with her still there, gazing at her porcelain-like face before dabbing at her glistening skin with a little of his sweat. Naruto-kun, what are you doing? Kyu posed the question accusingly. I don't know Kyu-chan, but when I look at her, something just seems different. Are you not attracted to her? Yes, very. I know you don't like it, but since you took her form so many times when you were playing tricks on my dreams, I think you're partly to blame for the attraction. Naruto-kun, you're mistaken. I simply used your pre-existing attraction against you in your dreams. Sometimes you would push her away after a brief kiss, but the next time you almost gave in to her demands. Keep that in mind. You always felt that way because you wanted her but didn't want to push her. He looked at the small girl and asked, so, are you okay with me liking her? As he turned red from remembering his dreams. I can handle it for a while, but no, I'm not. Try to see if there's anything else going on besides physical attraction. I'm not sure I want 2 girlfriends, so you're essentially telling me to go out with her. At last, you referred to me as your girlfriend. I am very happy for you, Naruto-kun, but I did not say that you should make her your girlfriend. Instead, she told him bluntly, take her out and enjoy yourself like a young man should, and maybe even kiss her. Well, I suppose I'll check to see if she wants to, but will you still want to out when we're by ourselves? She won't be able to keep you company at night, will she? Of course I still want to go out. He teased her, saying, no, I guess she won't, but keep your hands above the waist or I just might think about it. Hinata was just beginning to come to, and when she opened her eyes, she saw the object of her affection staring directly at her. Hi. Was all he managed to get out before she flushed like a tomato and passed out once more. A few more minutes went by before she regained consciousness. Hinata, she said before leaving again, but a smile was beginning to appear on her red face. As if on cue, she woke up and stared at him with her pale eyes that could display a wide range of emotions at once. He watched her examine every inch of him without showing any signs of redness, so he assumed it was safe to speak. Well, I'm not leaving here until you stay conscious enough to talk to me, so hurry up. Hinata-chan, how are you feeling? T.to. Kunen na. Naru. When she finally realized that he was actually holding her in his arms and that she wasn't just dreaming, she let out a long stutter and gave in to the serious blush and the waiting darkness. Do you think she's sick or something? It's kind of fun to watch her faint like this. With a hint of rage, she informed him, no, she isn't sick, she is quite stricken with you. Really, is that the reason she always fainted and turned red around me? And I just thought she was weird. I take it then that the cute little finger prodding thing she does is a nervous habit, which is why I always see her doing it. He asked, but received no response, so he assumed he was correct and dismissed it. Hinata continued to faint and wake up a few more times before she was barely conscious enough to carry on a brief conversation. How have you been, really? Has there been any improvement in your family? Naruto inquired tenderly. Still flushed, she stammered, a little, and Neji isn't too bad anymore, but father still pushes me too hard to become something I'm n. All right, did you prepare chunin? In an attempt to continue the conversation because she kept stopping, he asked. She told him slowly, being careful not to stutter or appear weak, "Yes, you are the only one that is still a genin. Neji is Jonin." With an unpleasant taste in his mouth, Naruto remarked, "Well, that really sucks, I'm still a genin." She reassured him, "I'm S. Sure you'll make it N next time. I appreciate you, Hinata. You were always so kind to me. Is there anything I can give you?" "Well, IG. Guess what it is?" Given the expression on his face, she inquired with a hint of concern. He leaned forward and gave her a quick peck on the lips, making her look like a cranberry and go limp in his arms with a huge smile on her face. "A present for cleaning my room. The sheets you used had the Hyuga symbol printed on the tag." Naruto laughed. He was enjoying making her faint like that and couldn't wait to see what it took the next time. After giving her another look, he concluded that she was cute and very alluring, much more so than the younger form he would see in his dreams, with her sandals looking like they didn't really fit anymore and her feet looking squished and uncomfortable in them, so he took them off and set them free. She began to stir again, and he thought he might just surprise her. He brought his face within an inch of hers, felt her breath on his face, felt her tiny arms wrap around his neck and pull him forward on top of her as she pressed her lips against his, making him forget everything and slowly opening his mouth. Taking that as an invitation, Hinata slipped her tongue past his lips and explored him, tasting his mouth. With a soft yet agitated tone, Q said, "Naruto-kun," but he continued to make out with the young Hyuga. "Naruto, maybe kiss her, not make out with her," she screamed in his mind, causing him to pull away from Hinata's lips, leaving a tiny trail of saliva from the extremely moist kiss. "I apologize, Q-chan, but I got a little carried away, okay?" "No, it isn't okay. Just try to keep everything a little less passionate," she snapped back. "I'll try." "Was that accurate?" Hinata inquired, still unsure because she had been having dreams about it for some time. He tried to brush it off, saying, "Yes, it was, but I think it was a little out of the blue, though." She said, "Oh," with a dejected expression, but she never once attempted to leave Naruto's side. "I suppose I can ask you a question now that you've recovered from your fainting episodes. You know, would you like to go on a date with me?" With a quick smile and frantic nod, she pulled him into a tender embrace, accidentally exposing a little more skin beneath her jacket than she had previously admitted. "How large are they, then?" Since she was unable to leave and slap them both, Q asked in an effort to tease him. Though he wasn't lying at all, he said, "Much smaller than yours, but still probably a big handful. I'd say about a C." Hinata released him from the hug and wiggled her toes while glancing at her bare feet. "You removed my shoes?" she asked, continuing to gaze at her toes. "Yes, they appeared uneasy." "What's the reason for their diminutive size?" he asked. "They're tight, not really small. To better hold my ankle for my nimble movements, I keep them tighter than normal," she replied, her head still lowered. "I'll tell you what. I saw a wide variety of shoes during my travels. One of them ought to provide you with the security and comfort you were due." The blonde smiled and suggested, "I should be able to make a henge of it at a local store so they can create you a pair." She answered softly, "You don't need to be bother, it doesn't hurt that bad. Silly, shoes shouldn't cause pain. Even the smallest amount of pain can interfere with your ability to fight. I won't let you persuade me otherwise, so that will be our first stop today." "Do you mean anything today?" she pondered. "Well, I was thinking that since you didn't have a mission today and I was free, that we'd cash in that date I asked you about right now," he replied with a grin. Hinata looked up and saw his smiling face, saying, "That's okay, you don't have T.to. What makes you not want to?" Her cheeks flushed shamefully as she glanced at her toes once more without completing her sentence. N.no, it just that, well Naruto also ignored this, focusing on her feet, which were obviously reddened in places from the tight straps. "Are you certain your feet are pain-free?" She fidgeted embarrassingly at his touch as he reached out and touched the surprisingly soft, irritated skin, saying, "They look painful to me." She continued to wriggle in his lap and pleaded, "Don't touch them please." "Why? Your feet are cute, just like you, so there's nothing wrong with them," he smiled. "What? Do you really believe that I'm circa cute?" she asked, initially unaware that he had begun to gently massage her foot. N.no stop and Naruto.kun. He disregarded her objections and continued to massage her feet as she began to writhe more, letting out a pleasurable before covering her mouth to avoid drawing attention to herself. Her eyes were closed as she writhed under his touch, her breathing becoming shallower and faster by the second. "Stop, Naruto-kun," Q screamed, making him pause. "Huh? Why was it only a brief massage? Nothing perverse or dangerous." "Not for her, just look at her, she was getting off on the massage similar to directly touching her womanly parts." Oh, hhhh. Naruto was a little embarrassed when he finally understood what she was saying. "I'm sorry Hinata-chan, I should have stopped when you asked," he conceded. M.My. Fault, N. No. It F. Felt good, J. Just not appropriate right N. Now, she stammered in between breaths, adding, "You didn't know." He decided to swiftly shift the topic and asked another question. "Are you prepared to leave now? I should have listened, but you have never said anything unworthy of attention." She hurriedly put on her shoes and ran all the way to her house with Naruto right behind, saying, "I need to go home F. First, it's just a few blocks away, you can come with M.Me." Because the Hyuga Manor was designed to resemble an apartment complex, Hinata allowed Naruto to wait for her outside the door to her room because it wasn't illegal to do so. She immediately stripped off everything, including her extremely wet underwear, after locking the door. Then, she lay down on her bed and began vigorously touching herself because the idea of her crush being just a few feet away made her feel even more attracted. Surprisingly, Naruto waited patiently for her to return when he heard faint, muffled groans, followed by a louder, muffled scream coming from her room. He asked, as naive as ever, "Q-chan, do you think she is alright?" Knowing full well that Hinata was releasing the sexual tension that had been built up earlier, she told him, "I think she is doing just fine, just leave her be for a little while longer." About 45 minutes after entering, he waited through a few more muffled sounds and some shuffling before she emerged, wearing tighter pants than before and a lavender short-sleeved t-shirt with the Hyuga flame symbol on it. Her face was flushed from making him wait while she satisfied her cravings, and she had a contented smile on her face. Still smiling sweetly, her blush fading, she stammered, "I'm ready to go, and Naruto-kun." As the two began to leave, Hishi swiftly stopped them and demanded, "Going where?" F. "Father, Hyuga-sama, I apologize. I was just taking your daughter out for lunch, a walk, and to buy some new clothes." Naruto told the icy Hyuga, "I decided to ask Hinata-chan because I needed someone to help me because I've been gone so long. Does it happen now, Hinata-chan?" "First of all, I don't like you at all," the stern clan head said. Naruto shrewdly retorted, "Well, you are her father, so you aren't supposed to like any guy that takes her out. You are the first to even try, but you were right, I wouldn't." Hishi threatened, "I will hunt you down if you touch her inappropriately or bring her back here after 10 o'clock. They were soon out in the streets of Konoha, walking along, almost a foot apart, in silence until Naruto had to break the silence because he could no longer watch her fiddling. "As it should be. Now if you please, we will be on our way." Hishi unexpectedly stepped back and allowed the two to continue on without any more trouble. "Well, I didn't think your father was all that horrible." In an attempt to lighten the situation, he joked, "I was certain he was going to force me to fight him or something." Why? Yeah, it was quite street strange of him. "You know, Hinata-chan, your stutter is cute, but sometimes it's difficult to understand you. We should work on your confidence, I believe. I'd like to understand you better, but we don't have to change you in any way." She didn't pay any attention where he was taking her in silence. She just kept her eyes on his face or their joined hands, wondering how the hell this happened without her confessing any feelings for him. "Why? Yeah," he smiled at her, swiping a hand away from her habitual action and laced his fingers with hers, causing her to blush uncontrollably with a wide smile. Her thoughts were quickly put out of her head when he pulled her into a custom footwear shop owned by an older couple who had moved to Konoha 3 years ago and were happy to see customers. "Hello. What can I do to help you too?" The 40-year-old man, dressed in a typical leather work apron, stepped out from around his empty workbench and asked, looking ecstatic to have customers. "I want you to try this project of mine. For her special movements, Hinata-chan needs a shoe that supports her ankles while still looking good. She hasn't found anything that works for her other than tightening her shoes until it hurts her feet. I therefore have a design in mind that ought to be ideal," he said. "Unless you chose a garish combat boot, the sandal she is wearing is actually the best in this village for support. So, tell me what this design of yours is," the man asked, his interest evident. "I'll do you one better." He made a clone right away and had it change into the thing he had imagined. Hinata loved the way it looked when it finally materialized. It was rather basic in design but would fulfill all of his promises. Is that thing really working? Hinata looked at it and asked. She grinned at him, took the shoe, put it on, and fell in love with its support and comfort right away. Yep, and it is about your size, you can try it on if you want. You can still show off your adorable little toes because it is still missing the toe. See, it is a twist on your current sandal, but it has a taller ankle strap and more straps around the foot holding it in place instead of just the one plus. Basically a fisherman's sandal. I'm sure they have something like that already, but pretend they don't for this story. She watched her toes as she wiggled them and answered, and T. They feel so good. His eyes almost dropped out of his head as he nodded frantically as she said, Sir, if you see Dot can make shoes like T. This, I will buy 12. How come no one has made them yet? It's such a simple design. The man immediately turned and ran to his workbench, but he had to turn around when he realized the model boot was still on her foot. Of course, my lady, I'll get started right away. My apologies, but I need the model shoe to make them, and if I may, I would like to give you 20% of all profits if I can sell this design in my shop exclusively. Sure, that design exists in a country far away from here, so it shouldn't be a problem, but you have to call it something weird like the Hina sandal, or something. Hinata blushed as the man agreed, and they left the store after giving him the sandal's savings account number and telling him that he would only have it for an hour before it vanished. Since his clothes were all damaged from training, they went to a clothing store to buy some clothes. He ended up with a few changes of clothes that might last a week with his training, but he was quite pleased with himself because he even managed to get Hinata to display a two-piece swimsuit in front of him, showing off her perfect petite form and decent-sized chest, completely pissing off the vixen within, but she remained silent. Hinata helped him pick out various items in the store and blushed numerous times when he would display some of the clothing for her, which naturally irritated Q, who was watching every move he made. After he dropped off his purchases, the day went well until lunch, when Hinata took him for a stroll in the park and they cuddled for a while before realizing it was getting late and finding another place to eat dinner. They found that they were talking more easily than before during the meal, which seemed to end the day too soon for the little Hyuga, and then they wandered around town for a little while holding hands before deciding to call it a night. Naruto escorted her back to the Hyuga Manor's main door, where they had to part. So, Hinata-chan, I had a fun time today. Naruto grinned as she said, so did I Naruto-kun, it was a day I will always remember. Did you realize that throughout that sentence, you didn't stutter once? She naturally flushed. I can tell you have a very pretty voice when you talk clearly. She began to lean forward a little and said, almost inaudibly, thank you Naruto-kun, it was all because of you. Big OL cliché time. He was unable to complete the sentence, Hinata, because his body approached her on its own initiative, kissing her halfway and holding it there for at least 5 seconds. Hinata-chan, I have one more question for you. Why did you make out with me earlier? She squeaked because she couldn't recall that, and her face instantly turned redder. She said shyly, thought it was a dream. You've dreamed about me, then? He inquired. She nearly passed out from the revelation of the secret as she told him, yes, a lot. Really? He turned away from her and began to leave, which made her heart sink. Then, with a flush on his face, he turned around again and said, well, I've had lots with you also. A light wave passed before he disappeared. When Hinata realized that he might love her as much as she loves him, she was overjoyed. She opened the big door of the Hyuga Manor and walked in with a big smile on her face, which didn't even waver when she was confronted by her father, who was standing there looking menacing. She ran up to him and shocked him by trapping him in a warm embrace. Thank you, Dad. We had a great time together. Would he be able to take me out again? It is very difficult to write her stuttering all the time, so I sped that up as well. Haishi was shocked because he had never seen his daughter not look away or even stutter once in his presence, and it was all because of one day spent with the village outcast. Hinata, you are free to see him, and I give you permission to follow your heart. He has done more for your character in one day than I have ever done with you, just don't get that involved too soon. Knowing what he meant, she blushed wildly and hurried out of his sight, disappearing into her room, then twirling on the ball of her foot and then flopping backwards onto her bed with her arms spread wide, letting out a very happy sigh as she did so. It's unbelievable that my father is allowing me to see him at will and hasn't banned me from having sex with him in the future. I must be the luckiest girl on the planet. Before she knew it, she was unconscious after closing her eyes. After a pleasant day of activities, Naruto was in a good mood when he arrived at his apartment. Immediately upon entering, he he heard a familiar voice in his head calling to him, but in a less than pleasant manner. "Now, Naruto, we must speak." He swiftly performed the jutsu because he was afraid of her tone, and when he did, she was wearing her typical white and silver kimono and was glaring at him. "Chan, what do you need to discuss?" With a faint flinch, he asked. She grabbed him violently and pushed him back onto the bed before straddling him and sitting on his stomach, pinning his arms to his sides with her legs. "Oh, don't you Chan me. You know exactly what we need to talk about. Now, I really think that we need to talk about this Hinata situation before it gets out of control. You already seem to be getting too involved." "What's the reason behind that?" he asked nervously, trying not to look into her eyes. "You've made out with her, kissed her twice, almost had an orgasm in the middle of the village, essentially seen her in her panties and bra, called her cute 4 times, and even cuddled with her twice in a single day. If that sounds like you're getting too involved, let me know. She stole that makeout session from me, believing it was a dream. Well, just in case you forgot, she stole that makeout session from me thinking it was a dream. The first kiss was probably the fastest peck on the lips humanly possible. The second kiss was very sweet, so I'll give you that. I didn't know her feet did that to her. She is cute, she looked very good in that swimsuit I bought her, and I only cuddled her once in the park, the other time was just holding her in my lap." Although his memory of the events was meant to calm her, he made a few mistakes that actually made it worse. "So, you really did purchase her that swimsuit, and you preferred kissing her over me?" Her question made Naruto's danger sense go off in a big way. Since he never lies to someone who can personally confirm it, he told her the truth. Swimsuit yes, kissing same but different." "Well then, Naruto," she began, omitting the final word, "do you want to end a relationship that has lasted more than 2 years by leaving me for her after just 1 day? He let his eyes meet hers and was drawn to her question. "No, that isn't it, Chan. I feel as though I am living 2 completely different lives, one in which you are my girlfriend and the other in which she is beginning to develop into one." He told her angrily, "I know that I still really want you as my girlfriend, even though it is really confusing. Alright, Naruto-kun, this is how things will be for the time being. I will always be yours because, as you know, I love you and I always will. If you really want to, you can have her as a girlfriend, but you can't go too far with her. I'll let you see her." Before she continued outlining the rules, she told him, "You will still be kissing me and touching me as you please and I will continue to sleep in your bed with you. You will need to disclose to her that you are romantically involved with her, me, and that the Kyuubi, me, is sealed inside of you if the relationship reaches a point where it becomes extremely serious. She will most likely slap you at that point and walk out of your life, shattering your hearts. Do you really want to take that chance?" In the hopes that he would reconsider, she asked. "What happens if I tell her and she really stays with me?" He pondered, attempting to gauge her depth of thought. "I'm not really sure how to respond to that. If it ever comes to that, we will have to make a decision, but there are far too many ifs in between here and there to reach that stage. What are you going to do then?" she insisted. "I'm not really sure. I have a strong desire to be with her, but I also know that I want to be with you. I truly don't want to hurt you or her, but I believe that after I've helped her come out of her shell, it might hurt her more if I ignore her again than if she finds out that I have you locked inside of me. I can't say that I'm going to leave her, even though I know you really want me to. I hope you can understand." She let him sit up on the edge of the bed and looked at the pain in his eyes once more before pulling his head to rest on her breast and giving him a tender back rub because she could see that the thought of losing either of them was tearing him apart more than anything else. "I know that love is strong and enigmatic, and I don't want it to cause you any harm. I don't know how you're going to handle this, but I'll accept it because your happiness makes me happy, even if she rejects you." "Really? Will you be able to accept this?" He lifted himself off her chest to gaze into her glistening eyes and asked. With a bright smile, she said to him, "I will try my best to accept this only if you treat me equally." He moved away from her tender lips and began to suckle her neck flesh as she moaned in pleasure at the feel of his lips caressing her sensitive neck. He finally pushed her over on her back and slowly pulled down the neck of her kimono, revealing her large breasts. I guess that can be arranged." He leaned closer to her and connected his lips to hers before falling backwards, pulling her down on top of him as they continued passionate kissing. She began to wriggle and pant before she screamed for more, so he moved down to them and began drawing circles around her darker flesh, getting closer and closer until he reached her perked nipples. He then went to each nipple and lightly sucked on it before moving up to give her a slow, tender kiss on the lips, stopping everything before putting his arms around her and drawing her in tight. The vixen, in need of relief, complained, "Why did you stop, Naruto-kun? It was just getting exciting." Well, since you stated that I must give you the same consideration that I give Hinata-chan, I am unable to do more to you in order to be fair to both of us. I saw you wearing less than a swimsuit, and now I'm cuddling you after you had a makeout session, a nice, tender kiss, and touching that made you feel really excited. He smirked as he told her, now you're even. At that, his expression changed to one of curiosity. Fine, be mean, but I guess I'll need to do what Hinata did to cope with getting so excited. Q-chan, what do you mean? She simply grinned as she placed her hand between her legs and began massaging herself, making sure to conceal the scene from the blonde who was still holding her. Do you recall the noises coming from her room? She asked as she sped up the movements of her fingers on her womanly parts. She slowly started getting closer to her release as her breathing got irregular as moans and muffled screams reminded the blonde of earlier that day before she screamed out one last time before sighing and relaxing on the bed. Well, she did what I just did, she got herself off. She smiled as contentedly as Hinata, but without the intense flush. Naruto was also blushing now, since he knew that two girls were having sex just 10 feet away from him and that he was not even permitted to observe. Sorry Q-chan. Once I figure out everything I will help you with that, just be patient, he reassured. I am patient, love. I would have violently jumped you 2 years ago if you had done that to my tits. He kissed her cheek lightly, then tightened his grip on her and fell asleep. All I really ask is that you just hold me now, she said, rolling her still topless body over and lying on his chest as usual. The following morning, Q got up early and made breakfast for them, successfully rousing Naruto with the sweet scent. He groggily left his room, relieved to see that she had changed back into her clothes and was going to the bathroom to clean up, pausing to kiss her cheek as he passed the sultry demon before proceeding to the shower. When he was completely clean, he came back just as his girlfriend was setting the final plate of food on the table. They sat quietly and watched each other while eating breakfast, and when they were done, Naruto got up and carried their plates to the sink. When he came back, he surprised Q with a long kiss and smiled as he broke up. He moved to retrieve his gift, but felt the need for another taste of her buttery mouth, so he moved in and engulfed her lips before moving much deeper into her mouth, seemingly tasting every corner of her before stopping, leaving her breathless and speechless. Your lips still taste of butter from the toast. He told her, licking his lips, I got you something when we were out yesterday. You have a brush for me? She inquired, not fully understanding that this was a gift. Indeed, it is a brush, and an excellent one at that. She got up, went to the shabby couch, sat sideways, and held up the brush, saying, I know you don't need it since you will be coming back to me soon, but I was wondering if you would like me to brush your fur. So, will you be brushing me or not? I asked sweetly, she said. He finished brushing her smooth in half an hour, but he kept brushing the soft, velvety fur of her tails for longer. A knock on the door was followed by a lovely voice. Are you awake yet, Naruto-kun? She yelled, and Naruto quietly completed the final brush strokes before approaching Q's front. He kissed her one last time before she left, saying, sorry, we have to cut this short. He quickly tucked the brush under the couch to conceal the hair that was obviously not his before opening the door for the small Hyuga. She paused for a moment before deciding to embrace her newfound boldness, and she surprised the blonde by pushing his knees apart and crawling between them to lay completely on top of his chest with her face buried in his neck. He shut the door after she entered, flopped backwards on the couch, and moved his feet so his knees were in the air, giving her room to sit as well. Hi Hinata-chan, come in. I was just lounging around for a while. Her boldness excited him, and he hoped she didn't notice, as she giggled in his ear before kissing his cheek. In an attempt to deflect attention from his uncomfortable situation, he said, You're really affectionate this morning, Hinata-chan. Is that an issue? With sweetness, she inquired. No, I think I like it. He blushed to match her color as he realized what she meant when she said, I know you do. He apologized, sorry. Don't be, I find it flattering. She gave him a gentle peck on the lips and then got off of him, pausing for a good 5 seconds to gaze at his crotch while grinning broadly. From within, Q said, Be careful, Naruto-kun. She wants in your pants about as badly as I do. He teasingly said, I know Q-chan, you'll be there to stop me if I let her, right? Stop that, just remember, I will be watching you. I understand. I can never be unfaithful to you as a girlfriend without your consent. While chatting with Q, Hinata took a brief stroll around the apartment and spotted 2 plates in the sink. Having 2 dirty breakfast plates when living alone seemed odd to her, but she dismissed it and put it away for later. She went back to the couch, took Naruto's hand, and gave it a slight tug. Come on Naruto-kun, stop being lazy and let's go walk or something, she pleaded. He gave her a smile and pulled away, causing her to fall onto his chest, her face only inches away from his. As they started kissing, he closed the space and shaped his lips to fit the curves of her tiny pink lips. She demanded entrance by moving her tongue across his smooth lips, and he immediately granted it. She tasted every inch of his mouth right away with her wet organ before attempting to grasp his tongue with hers and reintroduce it with hers. He finally understood her desire and entered the tiny cavern of her mouth, passing over her lips. They played with each other's tongues after his exploration inside her, then retreated to their own as they broke the kiss but instantly gave each other a slow, gentle one. Naruto asked, obviously pleased by the affection, "Now, I know you didn't think it was a dream this time, so is there a reason for that one?" Yes, I think you taste good. If you didn't like it you could have stopped," she told him. "Right. Stop kissing such a cute person as you. Not a chance." The voice in his head said, "You don't have to enjoy it that much." He licked his lips once more at the thought of that. "Oh, shut up. You got yours at breakfast with your delicious buttery lips." He asked the young woman who was lying on him in silence, "So then, what would you like to do, Hinata-chan?" Dreamily, "Stay like this forever," she answered. When she realized what she had said, she gasped and blinked, her cheeks flushed bright red. Under the sudden embarrassment, she tried to run away from him but was restrained by strong arms. He kissed her on the cheek, easing all of her anxieties. "Don't be embarrassed, I know that feeling. Let's just go out for a walk. I haven't seen Asuma's team yet, so we can just wander the streets until we find them." She shook her head and said, "Oh, okay." After letting her go, he prepared to go for a walk. As they were halfway down the street and out the door, Naruto noticed that Hinata was still wearing the extremely tight sandals, and he continued to wonder how she was able to walk on all of her missions while wearing them. He got a cheerful nod from Hinata and led her back to the shop. "Hey, let's stop in with the old man and see how he's coming with your shoes." When they arrived at the comparatively crowded store, they observed the man contentedly discussing his goods with a few customers. He whispered to her, "I thought he wasn't very busy." The elderly man gave them a big smile and motioned for them to approach. The man took the pair out from under the bench and gave them to Hinata, who accepted them with a broad smile. "Welcome back. I spent all night making a few pair and I have to tell you I've got orders backed up for weeks. At this rate I'm going to need an assistant." She put them on her feet and sat down on the adjacent bench right away, lost in their comfort. She turned to face the man, still grinning, and wiggled her toes in her new shoes. He simply returned her smile and asked, "They're perfect, how much do I owe you?" "Your first pair is on the house. I'm getting so much business after I put a pair in the shop window that it will pay for itself in no time, so please take them." "Thank you," she said, getting to her feet and joyfully dragging Naruto out the door with her newly discovered solace. After walking hand in hand down the street, they came to a small building where Shikamaru was rushing through some paperwork in preparation for the upcoming Chunin exam. Naruto shouted, "Hey Shikamaru," to the slothful Chunin. "Why do you have to be so loud? Man, you are so troublesome," was his response. Whatever Shikamaru, at that moment, a big man approached them with a tiny lunchbox and a huge bag of chips. Shoji said, "Hey, what's up Naruto?" and then saw that Hinata's hand was attached to his. "Hey, what's with Hinata?" The idiot probably just found out she liked him since, like, forever. Women, they're just too much trouble. Introduced the lazy Chunin. As he grumbled, Shoji threw him the box, saying, "Speaking of women, your mother said you forgot your lunch, so here." Naruto defended, "Hey, Hinata. Chan is not too much trouble," however, he thought to himself, balancing Hinata. Chan and Q. Chan without Hinata knowing is. With some optimism, she said, "I agree Naruto-kun, are you sure you don't just want to forget her?" Hinata pulled him away from the mumbling Chunin, halting his quick thinking. "Nice try, Q. Chan, but I think I can agree with you that I let myself go in over my head. I couldn't get away from her even if I tried." The Hyuga remarked, "Don't mind Shikamaru much, Naruto-kun. He probably doesn't have a girlfriend." Naruto said, "No, I just think he picked a very troublesome one." He then burst out laughing. "What do you mean Naruto-kun?" she inquired, attempting to decipher his meaning. "Well, there seemed to be a very large fan kept in that office, and there is only one person that uses a fan that I know of," he replied with a grin. Before Hinata was shocked from behind, she said, "Now that she thinks about it, that fan has been around him a lot. So you think he is involved with Temari?" When Ino attempted to leap between them, she discovered that her path was blocked by their intertwined fingers. "You bet he is. She is the only one he won't be lazy around. Even I can't get him to do work anymore." The slender blonde congratulated him, saying, I see you finally got to him, Hinata, way to go. Naruto asked irritably, so how many knew you liked me, Hinata-chan? When Hinata learned that Heishi had known the entire time and was most likely merely testing the waters by allowing them to leave, she became enraged once more. Oh, I'd say about the whole village, even her father knew about it. As the blonde shinobi muttered, great, I'm always the last to know. She quickly left, leaving the two alone with red faces. Yes you are. Now I'll leave you two lovebirds alone. I have some stuff to take care of at the flower shop, see ya. Naruto asked, well, now what should we do? After reintroducing himself to every member of the Asuma team. Well, how about we? Hinata began, but Kiba interrupted her as he hurried to her while atop Akamaru. Hey Hinata, I've been looking for you. We just got called in on a mission to escort two people to another village. It's a rank. He yelled while disregarding Naruto. Hinata asked without flinching, confusing the dog user. Well, I guess that messes up my day. How long will the mission be? A week, maybe more. What, a whole week without Naruto-kun? This sucks, was her response, which caused Kiba to become somewhat irate and Naruto to smile. She wriggled out of his grasp, then put her arms around his neck, bringing him close to her, and for roughly 2 minutes, she practically sucked the life out of him in a passionate and pleasant kiss. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I want to spend more time with you, but I must be going. As he watched with interest as his two friends truly got into their kissing, Kiba watched in silence. He became envious of all of this and wished he could find a girl of his own to share such an experience with. At last, Hinata withdrew from her blonde and fixed her gaze on his. Before giving him another quick kiss, she said, sorry, I need to go, she said, one for the road. Before scaling Akamaru and disappearing from view. As he watched them leave, he thought, I'm in trouble, Q-chan. What do you mean? She inquired, fully aware of his thoughts and emotions. I'm aware that I'm falling deeply and irrevocably for her. I'm already missing her. I know that I must tell her about you because there is only a small barrier she must overcome before I lose control. You two have one, but I won't tell you what it is to break it. I never get this feeling with you because you can't leave me. I think the feeling you have is a side effect of love. As many times as I want you to tell me those 3 words, I know she is going to hear them before me. Just as you expected, my tampering with your dreams have accelerated your feelings for her once you realized you could be with her. You already know how I feel about you, Q-chan, so don't worry. You will hear those words soon, but she might hear them first because I genuinely love her. I only hope she can accept this. It's a bite. After finishing his thoughts, Naruto continued on his journey and once more ran into Kakashi. In order to prepare him for Akatsuki's arrival, Kakashi immediately put him on training with his element while Hinata was away, with a man named Yamato. Naruto experienced a week of training and despair as he discovered what it was like to be alone without someone who became special to him more quickly than anyone should have. Knowing that he would never want to be apart from her, even with his vixen, and that her absence was depressing, he came up with a cunning plan to get her something so Q wouldn't know about it because she would undoubtedly be unhappy. One morning, while he was in the restroom and not with Q, he wrote Ino a note asking her to purchase something and have it packaged with a note inside. To remind him what it was for, he had her affix the words, "Tell Hinata everything," to the outside. Then, he told Ino to enter his head and erase the memory of what he had written, claiming it was practice for a new technique she was attempting to avoid Q's attention. Although Ino silently objected to the note, he understood that what he had written was true for all ninja and backed his choice. He was certain that Hinata would appreciate the gift, but he was baffled by the secrecy. She entered his mind and erased the memory of the substantial sum of money he had offered her for the purchase of the item. After an hour, Ino discovered him training with Kakashi and broke up their session. The built blonde stopped and stared at Ino in confusion as she shouted, "Hey Naruto, I got something for you." Ino simply laughed it off and handed him the little box when he asked, "Why would you get me anything?" Only he would know what everything was, so he took the box, read the message inside, and began to wonder exactly what he had asked her to do. He said, I suppose I should thank you then?" in a puzzled manner. After grinning at his dumbfounded expression of bewilderment, she gave him a hug and left, saying, "Nope, you already did that in advance. Congratulations." Hollered his inner fox and said, "What the hell was that all about? Don't you even think about going after another woman?" He continued his exhausting training after thinking, "I don't know what that was about, Q-chan. But all she did was remind me that I was going to tell Hinata everything when she got back, and I will never go after another. One would have been enough, but I can't control these circumstances." He is extremely concerned because Hinata hasn't returned after another 6 days. Q prefers quality over quantity, so even though she enjoyed the extra attention, things weren't as good. It appeared as though Naruto's depression would affect their time together, making Q anticipate Hinata's return with a similar level of anticipation as he did. Fortunately for both of them, Team Kurenai came back as soon as Naruto left for his afternoon strolls through the village. He exclaimed joyfully, "Hinata! Chan, you're back," until he noticed the Hyuga crying as she rushed to him, threw him to the ground, and kissed him as if it were her only way to survive. After kissing him, she led him up and sobbed into his chest while uttering a string of unintelligible words. He was massaging her back and looking to Kurenai for an explanation when he said, "Shh, it's okay Hinata. Chan. Calm down, I can't understand anything you're saying." To reassure her, she merely nodded and said Hinata didn't have to accompany them to the debriefing. The sobbing Hyuga's hiccuping gradually stopped, and she could at least form coherent sentences. "Now tell me what is wrong. Did something bad happen on your mission?" Yes and no, our mission was considered a success, but someone still died. He died of a sickness no one knew he had, so there wasn't anything we could have done to prevent it, she clarified as she began to cry. "So that is why you were crying? You lost a person on a mission?" he asked, and she shook her head in response, causing her tears to flow once more. No, people die all the time on missions, it was just the situation he was in. Naruto accepted that she was depressed, but she couldn't understand why something as trivial as a situational problem would make her feel this way. He propped himself up on the village wall and sat with Hinata in his lap, holding on to his neck as if he were leaving and would never return. "Well then, tell me what happened." "The people we were escorting were in love and were on their way to her father's mansion to get married. We were hired to protect the young woman from enemies of her father when they were traveling to her home. They loved each other deeply but never went too far in their intimacies since they wanted to wait until they were married to get to that." "You mean sex?" he cut in himself. She nodded her head, flushed, and went on. "Yes, they never had sex and then he died. She was so broken-hearted and cried constantly. She always said that she wished she would have had sex with him just so she would know how it felt and be brought closer to him, but after he died she swore she would never know what it would be like since she made a vow never to love again. We continued the mission and brought her to her father's house where he thanked us and took the body of her fiancé. The day after, we woke up to commotion in the halls, and found out, she hung herself." Hinata burst into tears again and wailed loudly into his already tear-soaked shirt. In an attempt to cheer her up, he said, "I'm sorry that happened, it is very tragic, but there are just some things in life that we can't control." As she pressed her face against his neck once more, she said, I know that Naruto-kun, that is why I'm crying." "So you're crying because you can't control when things go bad in life?" "Kind of, but I am really crying because that same thing could happen to me. I love you, Naruto-kun, more than I could ever imagine. The day we had together tore open the wall I put up keeping me from loving you this deeply until you broke down that wall by accepting me and acknowledging me as a woman, and mostly because you kissed me. I am crying because I know that if you were taken away from me now, I would surely die." She managed to say nothing before she started crying once more. As he stayed silent and watched the grief, fear, and even love pour out of her until he could take it no more, her cries grew stronger. "I apologize, Q-chan. I know, go ahead. It is times like these that I know I love you, Naruto-kun. I just hope she doesn't hurt you and herself." Naruto turned away from his thoughts to face the small bundle in his arms, crying. Taking her soft chin in his hand, he lifted her face until her teary eyes met his, then gently pressed his lips to her forehead. He could taste the salty tears on her lips as well as her own, and he could feel the love and grief she had poured into him, which prevented her from crying. He withdrew from her and gazed at her now happy face. "Hinata-chan, I never saw you as a possible companion all through academy because I was stuck on chasing Sakura just to get noticed. Then during the Chunin exams I noticed you as a ninja, and one worth fighting to protect. By the final round of the Chunin exam I finally saw you as a friend when you helped me gain my confidence back to fight Neji." He took a moment to breathe before continuing. He paused his speech to observe the pain in her eyes, the rejection he had witnessed far too often, and then continued, saying, "At that point I left to train not thinking of those I left behind, but on my 16th birthday I remembered you and saw you as a real girl, a cute and pretty one, that hid herself from everyone. Then when I returned here I saw you all grown up and I realized that I could never see you as a ninja, a friend, or even a pretty girl. I will never see you as any of those things because the one moment I felt completely at peace with everything was when I kissed you. That was the moment that I knew there was no possibility of me ever liking you, because I skipped that and went straight to love. Hinata. Chan, I want you to know that I love you more than I thought I could. Brimming with happiness, Hinata pressed her lips to his, soaking up his love as she expelled the air from his body in a kiss unlike any other, then withdrew and gazed into his eyes. She asked, her face flushed from head to toe. I know it is really early in our relationship, but I feel like I know every part of you and I love you so much. We are ninja, so as such we have short lifespans, so would you, make love to me? She couldn't help but smile despite her blush when she saw his bewildered and shocked expression. To make sure he didn't mishear her, he asked, huh? She rubbed her chest against him and slid her hand to his waist, whereupon he instantly grabbed her wrist, stopping her progress. Naruto-kun. I want you to make love to me, to have sex with me. I don't care when or where, it could be right here and now. Just please let me feel the love you have run through me as we enjoy each other's bodies while making love. Naruto took a small box out of his pocket, wrapped it in silver metallic paper, tied a lavender bow around it, and gave it to Hinata. Chan. Hinata. Chan, not here and not now. Even though we are outside the village walls, this place is not where I would want it to take place. Also, I have something I really need to tell you before we go that far, but first I have something for you. She stared at the little box for a few seconds before smiling and grabbing it. Now you can't open that box until I have told you my secret that I will tell you tomorrow evening. Do you promise to not open it until then? She asked. I promise, Naruto-kun. Naruto pushed off the wall and lay down in the grass, while Hinata followed him down and lay on his chest. They discussed their feelings about their lives until they both fell asleep. Good, then for the rest of the day, let's just sit here and talk to enjoy each other's company. When the two fell asleep outside the walls at 8 p.m., Kurenai became concerned about her teammates and students' situation and made the decision to find out where she was. When she returned to Hinata's previous location, she discovered her dozing off on the blonde's chest. Knowing that Hinata has been pursuing him for years, she grinned when she saw them together, but her smile turned to a frown when she noticed Naruto's hand gripping the Hyuga's ass. She was on the verge of waking up the perverted genin for exploiting an emotionally distressed girl in the most heinous manner imaginable when she realized that Hinata wasn't the only victim in this scenario. Kurenai yelled loud enough to wake them, and it succeeded. Well, what do we have here? What the hell are you doing? Expression was written on the faces of the couple as they gazed up at her. You guys should be careful out here since you are outside the wall still. Also, I would like to know where your hand is, Naruto. Without the need to look, he answered, on Hinata's nice firm butt. When Hinata looked down, she noticed that her hand was resting directly on the man she loves' crotch. Really, alright then Hinata, what about your hand? She asked. Her face flushed instantly. The Jonin thought, same old Hinata, a big blush and then faints when things get really awkward with him. As if wondering if that was what she was inquiring about, Hinata responded, it's on something I really want? Kurenai concluded her previous thought with the words, or not, she said accusingly, you guys haven't been doing anything together, have you? With her hand still in place and her face still firmly red, Hinata replied, no sensei, we haven't but I want to. Kurenai replied, well you don't need to be in a rush to do that, there is plenty of time in the future. Hinata responded by looking her in the eyes. That is where you are wrong, you saw firsthand on our mission what could happen to a couple. Our lives as ninja are more dangerous than theirs. Every time we go on a mission, there is a chance that we will never return. I realize that I need to seize life when it comes. I've loved Naruto for years, and he now feels the same way about me, so why waste time? We are adults and can make our own choices. Once we live long enough to have a permanent job in the village, then we can worry about marriage. Kurenai was shocked once more. Hinata, you have changed so much since he returned that I really don't even know you anymore. You are right though, if you truly have found the love you want, don't let it run away. Enjoy each other when you have the chance. I would say to continue as you were, but Heishi will be looking for you like usual after a mission, so maybe you can have your fun tomorrow. Kurenai gave them a wink and then left the two teenage girls alone once more. Naruto got up and brought Hinata up with him, saying, well Hinata. Chan, I guess it isn't too early to be at that level in our relationship. She leaned on her tiptoes and gave him a gentle tongue. Only kiss, saying, I can't wait Naruto-kun, I've wanted you since you came back. He took Hinata, Chan's hand, interlocked their fingers, and walked her home, saying, let me walk you home Hinata, Chan. Since they were only entering the manor through the gate, Hinata knew she had to leave his side sooner rather than later, even though she didn't want to. Bringing herself up to his eye level, she nodded and said, well, I guess this is it. Remember not to open the gift until I talk to you tomorrow evening, okay? This made it easier for her to pull him into a goodnight kiss before leaving him outside and sneaking inside the manor. The return of Hinata caused Naruto to feel both joy and sadness. He was upset that he didn't look forward to telling her about the other half of his life, but he was also happy that a hole in his heart had been filled. He opened his lock while thinking about these things, not paying attention to what he was doing, and broke off the key, making it impossible to lock again. With a sigh, he dismissed it as a curse and went on inward. He decided that bringing out his beautiful vixen might help him deal with his feelings, which he desperately needed. "How are you feeling, my love?" she inquired, oddly dressed in form-fitting spandex shorts and a gray t-shirt. Naruto gave her a quick kiss after grinning at her. As a result of his response, her attitude somewhat changed. "I'm doing much better now that Hinata has come back. Are you sure you really want me to be here? If you really want her exclusively, you can tell me, and I will leave you alone forever," she said with a gloomy tone. "I know this is hard on you to see someone you love go and love another, but my heart still holds plenty of room for you if you want to stay in there. I have enough love to go around," he said with a grin. Her face brightened as she asked, "Did you just say love?" Naruto appeared dissatisfied with her new appearance as she said, "Yes, I said love, okay? I love you and I love Hinata. I just don't want to lose either of you." Reaching for the hem of her t-shirt, he swiftly lifted it over her head, revealing her large, gravity-defying chest. She giggled happily as he kissed each of her nipples after glancing at her attractive figure. The gorgeous fox demon was overjoyed and started to jump up and down as if she were a very young child rather than a 9,500-year-old demon. "Alright Q-chan, even though I said I love you and I like sleeping with you topless doesn't mean that you can try jumping me while I sleep. Once I confess everything to Hinata-chan, I will let you do what you want, okay?" she said. As her flesh bounced with her, Naruto was enthralled and grinning. She halted her bouncing, rushed to his side, and gave him a hug that left his arm with soft, warm mountains of flesh on either side. She grabbed him, shoved him into his room, and pushed him down onto the bed before climbing over him and dragging her breasts across his face as she positioned herself at his side. "I want to go to sleep early so tomorrow comes faster." After settling in, she fell asleep after a short while. In contrast, Naruto spent a long night considering how he would approach sharing his secrets with Hinata before succumbing to fatigue. Hinata got up early and hurriedly changed into her typical clothes. She smiled as she eyed the little box on her nightstand and thought of a brilliant way to surprise her significant other today. She hurried to the kitchen and got to work making a delicious breakfast for the two of them. After finishing her assignment in record time, she packed the food into a small box and drove to Naruto's apartment. She decided to try the door after finding herself outside his door and considering knocking. She decided to wake him in a pleasant way and smiled covertly when it opened. Silently, Hinata walked to the bedroom, turned the corner in the doorway, and stopped. The woman, who was missing her top and resting on his shoulder so that Hinata could perfectly see one of her boobs, was with the man she loved, right in front of her face. The occupants were awakened when her tiny hands involuntarily dropped the box she was carrying, causing it to slam loudly onto the floor. Hinata turned with tears in her eyes and sprinted for the door when Naruto said bluntly, "Shit." He yelled, "Hinata-chan, stop. This isn't what it looks like." He eventually caught her before she could leave the room. She concluded her tirade with a forceful slap to the face that was heard throughout the village, but he remained motionless and held her. "Get your worthless hands off me, you two-timing bastard. I loved you and even kept my virginity just for you, and you go sleeping around with someone the night when I confessed my love. How could you have done this to me? I would have let you do anything to me sexually, and you weren't satisfied with that kind of trust. Everything you told me was a lie, wasn't it? I hate you," she said. "I can explain everything if you will just hear me out," he pleaded. She almost kissed him right away when she saw the love and shame in his eyes, but she knew she was furious enough to kill him too. Naruto sighed and sat her down in a chair at the kitchen table, saying, "You have 2 minutes." He then started to explain. As he was telling her this, Q was putting her shirt back on and sitting at the other end of the table. "First of all, I didn't lie to you when I said that I love you. Nothing has changed there. When we confessed our feelings, I told you there was something big I needed to tell you before I would let it continue. This was part of it. Now don't storm out of here until I finished everything. Once I do, you can do as you see fit." Naruto knew that Hinata was getting angry with every second of his explanation and was on the verge of tearing his head off. "The woman you saw was Q-chan. I met her on my 16th birthday and she has been with me ever since. We started out as friends, but by the age of 17 we became more than friends. We basically dated each other since then, and I have to tell you that I also love her." He swallowed and made the decision to go on. Hinata's eyes widened at this realization, and she stayed after her 2 minutes so that he could at least continue this flagrant lie. "That is one part of the secret I was keeping from you, but there is more. If these were normal circumstances, I wouldn't have put you in this situation, but like everything that surrounds me, this situation is far from normal." A little over 18 years ago, Kyu found her way into Konoha on her search to end a deep feeling of loneliness. She came into contact with Orochimaru to befriend him, but he ended up manipulating her emotions, turning her into a raging beast hell-bent on destruction. As a last preserving act, the Yondaime Hokage saved the village from the beast by sealing her within me, hoping she would come out of her rage. Unfortunately, the Yondaime used a forbidden jutsu to do the sealing, and it took his life. Hinata Chan, Kyu's full name, that she is referred as Kyuubi no Kitsune. She was the nine-tailed fox that nearly destroyed Konoha. Hinata looked over to the vixen and noticed, for when she saw the ears and tails ahead of her. "I know you will probably still hate me, but I just wanted to let you know that I still love you. I don't really know how to put this, Hinata Chan. You have something that I could never get with Kyu Chan. You have a real body that exists and can have a family. You each occupy a place in my heart that is different, yet the same, and as such I will love you both." Naruto was unable to interpret Hinata's expression, and he simply continued. "Hinata Chan, I also need to tell you something that I kept important to me. I too have remained a virgin. I haven't had sex with Kyu Chan. I don't want to pressure you, but I want you to consider staying with me and accept the fact that I have two loves in my life like Kyu Chan very reluctantly did when I fell for you. I really need an answer tonight by 10 p.m. If I don't see you here by then, I will accept that you never want to see me again, and I will never try to see you no matter how much it hurts me." He waited and observed Hinata as she took into the information, and she continued to do so. Her words, "Naruto, you really have damaged my heart. I will leave you now and try to see if there is anything left to salvage. If there is, I might return, but I can't promise anything, so don't get your hopes up. Enjoy your breakfast." And with that, she walked out the door, closing it firmly before the floodgates opened, running to her room to try to cry away all the sorrow. With tears streaming down his cheeks, he said, "That really could have gone better, Kyu Chan, but so far you were correct about what her reaction was going to be. A part of me wishes that I listened to you." After tidying up the mess caused by the boxed breakfast, Naruto spent hours idly sulking around his apartment while ignoring Kyu's consoling words. When he realized that Hinata was nowhere to be seen and that the clock was getting dangerously close to 10, he was on the edge of losing it. That day, Hinata stayed cooped up in her room at the Hyuga Manor, moping. She no longer shed tears because she could no longer bear them, not because she had conquered the sadness. She kept a close eye on the clock as it eventually struck 10 o'clock. The deadline had been reached. Even though Hinata concluded that it was probably for the best, she would always love him. Now, she genuinely only doubted his love for her. Why was he still hanging out with someone else if it was as strong as he claimed? Perhaps I am just being self-centered. Knowing that there was nothing she could do, she shook herself from those thoughts and undressed for a shower before her gaze fell upon the gift on the nightstand. Something inside of her restrained her from smashing that damn thing because it made her think of the blonde shinobi. As she stared at the box, she pulled on her warm, fuzzy, dark gray bathrobe and embraced her knees. She broke the stare and picked up the box, holding it in her hand as the clock struck 10 minutes to 10. She was reaching for the lavender ribbon to untie the little present a few moments later. When he realized that she wasn't Kakashi and that it was too late to be done on purpose, Naruto's eyes began to well up with tears once more. In an attempt to calm his raging emotions, he was sitting on the couch with the vixen by his side, massaging his back. "I don't think she is coming, Naruto-kun, I'm sorry, but..." His face remained in his hands as he said, "Just a little longer. I'll wait until 10:30 just to be sure." Kyu gave in and said, "Okay Naruto-kun, just a little longer." After removing the silver wrapping, Hinata opened the tiny black box. Unaware of the actual object in the box, she took the note she saw sitting there. "Only, to Hinata," was written on the note, but after a little chakra work, the message became clear. "Hinata, the deepest secret of my life, and even the deepest secret of Konoha itself, should have been revealed to you by now. You should have discovered that although I do love her and she is now a good person, there are some things between you two that I can't even begin to compare. As you have discovered, I have had the Kyuubi sealed within me since birth. Since I never had a family and Kyu Chan will never be able to provide me with one, I long for a wife and kids in the future. Without them, my life would be incomplete. Since I couldn't imagine anyone truly loving me, Especially since I know I will always love a woman who will be with me forever. I initially believed the hole would never be filled, but when I saw you, it started to close. I finally took a chance that you might be able to fill the remaining space in my heart despite Q-chan when you kissed me that day. Even though we have only really been together for a day and a half, our chosen careers could last a lifetime. The majority of ninja never find love, and they die every day. When it comes to you, it would be foolish not to take advantage of life. I, Uzumaki Naruto, Hyuga Hinata, am requesting your hand in marriage because I love you more than I could ever love any other person on this planet. Are you going to wed me? I promise that you will be the only person I love in this way, and I hope that I feel the same way about you. It doesn't have to happen right away, but I realized when you were gone that I don't want to be without you in my life. When she discovered that this box had been put together before she had returned, indicating that he loved her before she had expressed her feelings, the tears she had thought had dried up suddenly came back to her eyes. When she reached for the black box once more, she noticed the ring she had missed the first time. She took the ring off and looked at the workmanship before focusing on the 2 stones on the band. In addition to the shimmering pearl that only displayed a lavender tint, which was obviously symbolic of her eyes, she saw a blue stone that resembled the depths of the bluest ocean, reminding her of his eyes. She opened her window wide and gazed at the darkened skies, shedding more tears. She gave the ring's stones a single kiss before snatching it in her fist and cocking it back in preparation to throw it out the window. She stopped in the middle of her throw. She grabbed the ring from her balled fist and slipped it onto her finger with a slight smile and a fresh idea before racing out the open window toward Naruto's apartment, oblivious to the time, which was 10:29. Naruto's whiskered face broke down in tears as he realized it was 10:32 and had to confront the reality that she wasn't showing up. He even made up an excuse to wait an additional 2 minutes. He got up and prepared to leave the apartment, unwilling to accept his fate. He went to the door, but the fox stopped him, saying, "Q-chan, I need to go find her." When Hinata heard the conversation begin, she landed silently outside the apartment and came to a stop just inches from the door. "No, Naruto-kun, you don't. You gave her all the facts and placed them all in her court. She hasn't shown for a reason, and we even waited another 32 minutes past the deadline for her. You knew the chance you were taking with her, and you took it anyways. But hey, I'm not too bad looking for a consolation prize." She laughed in an attempt to cheer up the crowd. When Hinata heard silence, she turned on her Byakugan to see inside the room and said, "You are not a consolation prize, Q-chan. I really do love you." She watched as Naruto gave the curvy woman a gentle kiss. They made out wildly after reconnecting and kissing again, but this time much more deeply. The following morning, in the Hyuga manor, a door was knocked on, but no one answered. The branch member knocks more loudly, and the force makes the door swing open, saying, "Hinata. Sama, you are late for breakfast." It was obvious that this was not the clean room she usually kept when the branch member looked in and saw her clothes haphazardly scattered throughout the space with the window open. To tell Heishi what he had discovered, the branch member hurried from her room to his study. Heishi stood up and turned to face the man right away. "Heishi. Sama, Hinata is not in her room, nor have the guards seen her leave. Her room isn't kept like usual and even the window is open." Heishi hastily left with Naruto's apartment in mind, saying, "I will see to it myself. There may be a few places she would be since she was very sorrowful about something yesterday." When Hinata woke up first, she sighed and grinned at the sight of the 2 nude individuals standing next to her, who were almost completely covering her body. She felt completely safe and loved for the first time in her life. Without thinking, she began to caress one of the tail's soft furs, which was covering them and keeping them warm. She was so happy holding her fuzzy tail between the 2 nude bodies that she didn't notice the door fly open until it was too late. He paused as he surveyed the room. "So help me, if you have defiled Hinata in any way He could not see the faces of the 3 people curled up together because they were covered by a red fur blanket. The 2 on the outside had one leg over the matching leg of the one in the center. The fact that he could see each leg up to the mid-thigh, indicating that they were nude beneath the blanket, confused him even though he could tell one of them was male and the other 2 were female based on the shape of their legs. When he noticed pupilless eyes peering over the fur and a familiar voice followed, his confusion about the obvious threesome worsened. Hinata yelled, "Father, get out of here," with shame and rage in her voice. Heishi was unable to leave his position because he was in shock at seeing her there as the middle person. "Hinata-chan, who is it?" a voice that was obviously feminine asked. She told her, "It's my father Q-chan." "Shit," a manly voice said. Q said, "You Hyuga sure know how to stumble on awkward situations." He then yawned, drew Hinata in, and planted a kiss on her temple. She screamed in embarrassment, "Kyu-chan, stop, my father is still in the room." At last, Heishi said, Hinata, Heishi, please wait outside, we will be out in a moment, and shut the door. Naruto yelled. Now, the older Hyuga ran out the door, uncharacteristically embarrassed by the situation, while Heishi remained stunned and still stood still. While waiting for the inevitable confrontation, he remained composed while seated on the ramshackle couch. Wearing matching bathrobes that Naruto had purchased while Hinata was away on her mission, the three emerged from the room and sat down on the freshly cleared couch. As they awaited the fit to hit the Shan, Naruto held each girl's hand. Heishi cleared his throat, straightened his Hyuga robe, and braced himself for his reprimand. Heishi shouted angrily, "What the hell were you thinking? Do you realize what you have done?" Hinata answered sharply and resolutely, "Yes, father, I do. I had sex with the man I love." With a trace of remorse in his eyes, Heishi told them, "I could accept that, I'd hate it, but I'd accept it. The problem is that the council won't accept you being with the demon." Hinata infuriated her father by asking, "And what demon would you be referring to?" Heishi only now realized how seriously he had slipped, but it was too late to hide it because the fox was out. Knowing what he was doing, he told her with a concealed shiver, "Hinata, the council views Naruto as the Kyuubi since he was sealed in him, and wasn't destroyed by the Yondaime. You do know that you just broke a Hokage law by telling her that, right?" asked Naruto. Observing all of their composed expressions, he responded, "Yes, but what really baffles me is that none of you were affected by the revelation." "Well, father, the reason we weren't affected by it is because most of it is a lie. Naruto is Naruto, and just because he had a demon sealed inside him, doesn't mean he is the demon." Hinata replied with a scowl. "That is true, but as you saw with Gaara, the demon can take over its container, so everyone thinks the fox is controlling him," the head of the clan responded. Heishi choked on the air he was breathing, not anticipating such a remark from his once bashful daughter. "Well, I know that if the demon was controlling him I wouldn't have had my fun last night." Heishi reminded them, but all three of them were furious. "We will get to that later, but we are still determining the status of the fox. He nearly destroyed Konoha and he should have been killed." Before testing what was what, Heishi had a smug expression on his face. "Heishi, please don't anger Kyuubi, she gets very pissed when you call her a he." Kyu stood up quickly, and Naruto and Hinata turned away. "Well, I don't know what lines of crap he has been feeding you, but he definitely is a he, and if he doesn't like it, then I would like to see what he would do about it." Kyu gave him the nutcracker special by slamming her foot into his breadbasket, momentarily taking his breath away. She would do this. He was trying to figure out how he missed something as obvious as a girl with 9 matching tails and red fox ears when he finally caught his breath. In a high-pitched, raspy voice, he said aloud, "So I take it Kyu is short for Kyuubi." Naruto remarked, "Yes, and obviously she is a female." As he stumbled to his feet, he asked, "So let me get this straight, all of you had a threesome?" With a serious smile, Hinata said, "Not like my sex life is any of your concern, but yes I did and I plan to do it a few more times, this week." "Hinata, I wish you didn't admit to that. There is a Hyuga law that requires me to banish all who enter a relationship involving polygamy. Therefore I must tell you that you are free from the Hyuga and as such you won't need their permission to marry whoever you want. Now all your things will be sent to you later today." Without looking back, Heishi left the tiny residence. When Hinata learned that she had been rejected by the clan she had always sought acceptance from, tears began to well up in her eyes. Before giving Hinata a tender embrace, Kyu apologized, saying, "I'm sorry Hinata-chan, it was all my fault." Seeing his two women get along so well, Naruto grinned and scooted closer to where they were still hugging. "No Kyu-chan, I don't regret anything, even knowing that this would happen, I wouldn't trade last night for anything. The only reason I almost didn't come back yesterday was that I thought Naruto didn't have enough love to keep us both happy." After he expressed his worries, they heard a knock at the door. "Hinata-chan, don't you think that something was weird with Heishi? I thought that he would try and kill me for touching you, and normally don't the Hyuga place the seal on ones they banish? He is acting like, well, not himself." When Naruto opened it, Heishi was once more visible. Heishi moved closer to his ear and whispered, so no one could hear, "Naruto, I know I haven't viewed you properly and I still don't like the situation you've gotten her into, but know this. If you didn't have a special circumstance I would kill you for getting her with another woman, but then again. You are living a dream nearly all men have, but don't hurt my daughter or your life will end." In an attempt to recover from the shock, Naruto remarked, "You really are a strange one Heishi." Not really, look underneath, right? Anyways, would you happen to know when Jiraiya-sama is putting out his next book? He inquired with an arrogant grin. No, now get. Naruto yelled, trying not to laugh, pointing out that beneath the aloof actor was just an ordinary person. As Naruto watched him go, he finally noticed everything that had been brought out in such a short period of time. Fine, all of Hinata's stuff is outside already. He said, Hey Hinata-chan, your stuff is here. Hinata grinned as she approached the door and saw her room's entire contents, including her queen-size bed. Well, I guess you don't have to sleep in the middle anymore. Hinata smiled sweetly and said, but I really liked it, I felt so warm and Q-chan is really soft. The fox who joined the group chimed in, I'm fine with that, she plays with my tails while she sleeps. They quickly switched the furniture and were able to unwind afterward, knowing they wouldn't be disturbed again. Well then ladies, let's get all my crappy furniture out of here and get Hinata's stuff in. Now, Naruto lay on the much bigger bed, with a girl on each side of him, placing their hands on his stomach and their heads on top of him. He smiled broadly and said, I'm really glad you two can get along, it would have been hard to play with each of you if you fought over me. Don't worry, we still fight over you, but we just found that it is more fun to play with each other until we get our turn, explained Hinata. You guys are too much, I've got a girl fox and a foxy girl and they are both gorgeous, I have to be the luckiest man alive. Well, I think it was time you got a break, your childhood sucked, Q said. Yeah, thanks for the reminder Q-chan. Oh, don't get down my love, because of me being sealed in you, you got to have sex with two hotties at the same time. Though he didn't want to leave his current situation, Naruto said, well, just that right there may have been well worth it. Anyways, how would you two vixens like to accompany me to Tsunade? I need to ask her a question. Q, who was now sitting up and staring at Naruto-kun, asked, how am I supposed to accompany you, aren't people going to see my tails? After being pointed out, the blonde said gravely, actually Hinata-chan and Heishi didn't see your tails, so let's give it a try. But still, wouldn't it be better if you just gave me back my body once we're there? With a knowing smile, he teased, kind of, but if you want to have equal time in bed you should stay out here with Hinata-chan and I guess that is answered. There is no way Q-chan will give up having sex with you if she felt anything like I did, replied Hinata. The three went out the door to look for the Hokage since that was resolved. As expected, as they passed through the village, nobody saw the three holding hands and nobody brought up the tails. Fortunately, they were able to get an audience right away because Tsunade was attempting to avoid doing paperwork. Hey Ba-chan, I've got a question for you. That's good, what is it? She asked, her nose still in her paperwork, not paying attention because she finds it difficult to break out of paperwork mode once she enters it. Naruto smiled mischievously before posing his fictitious query. With his cheeky grin still intact, he said, I was just wondering if there are any more kunoichi I don't know about. She said without thinking, I'll check into it, it's possible. His joke caused the other two girls in the room to try not to laugh out loud. Well, that's good, do you think you could find out fast? I'm getting bored of always having sex with the ones I know about. I mean, it's starting to get repetitive, always the same thing every night, I need some fresh ass. When she realized something was wrong with what she was about to agree to, she screamed out, I'll find you some, what the hell did you just say? Now that he had her attention, Naruto yelled, it's about time you paid attention to me, I have something important to ask. Tsunade asked, fine, but what did you just say, really? Well, I said, he began, but Hinata stopped him by covering his mouth with her hand. Hinata interrupted, he didn't really say much, now how about that question? The Hokage said, all right, so let's start by identifying the girl with the ears. Naruto said, looking nervous about what he was going to say, that is part of my question I have for you, but what she is to me is complicated, let's just go with lover. Tsunade turned to Hinata and noticed that she was grinning. Well, that is surprising, I would have expected you to get with someone here. Hinata, how do you feel about this? A cheerful, I'm okay with it, was her response. Tsunade noticed a flash of light flicker off of something on Hinata's finger at that precise moment. The Hokage questioned in shock and awe, is that an engagement ring, Hinata? With an even wider smile, she answered, yes it is, and I couldn't be happier. Hinata simply glanced at her blonde and grinned even more. Really, who is the lucky man? She asked. Naruto said, looking quite uneasy, yeah, that is where things get complicated, Ba-chan. So you're saying you proposed to Hinata and she is fine with you having sex with this girl? Tsunade elaborated, Tsunade startled everyone by getting to her feet with a hint of anger, while Hinata blushed and said, actually I joined them. Damn that Jiraiya. I will kill him for turning you into him. It isn't right to be having group sex, she yelled at them. Well, it sure felt right, Q said casually. Hinata gently reprimanded Q-chan, saying, quiet Q-chan, we don't need to make things worse. Take it easy Ba-chan, I would agree with you if there weren't extra circumstances involved. Tsunade sat down and said, fine, we'll get to that in a moment. Now, I never knew you were bi, Hinata. Her abrupt attitude change confused them. Still blushing, Hinata clarified, I'm not. To put it simply, I wouldn't be playing with her if Naruto wasn't taking care of my needs. The chubby blonde said, I didn't really need that much information. Why, you didn't want to hear how Naruto-kun was moving himself deep inside Hinata. Chan making her scream from his wonderful thrusting while I knelt above her as she was pleasuring me with her warm wet tongue? Q asked with a foxy grin. Tsunade asked, no, so who are you then, ears? She is Q-chan, someone I found on my 16th birthday, and we got involved with each other after she teased me for about a year with her naked body, which is gorgeous, said Naruto with a slight grin. Knowing that any other guy would have accepted her offer the moment she made it, an astonished Hyuga girl asked, so you took seeing her naked body for over a year and still never had sex with her until last night? That's right, Hinata-chan, I could have had sex with her the day she showed up, but I wanted something more. Anyways, I need a way to give Q-chan more chakra so she can disguise herself. I don't want to hide the unorthodox relationship between the three of us, but I want Q-chan to go out into public without her tails no matter how cute and soft they are. He went on to draw Tsunade's attention to KY more than that. Tails? Wait, are you saying that she is the Kyuubi? Tsunade inquired without seeming to mind, having read the Yondaime's report on the rationale for his sacrifice. Yeah, she is, was Naruto's straightforward response. Okay, that makes things better for me. Basically, since she has no body of her own, you and Hinata just have something more like a sex toy. Now I know she has a full consciousness all her own, but I can now see why you three are as you are. Only Hinata will be able to have children with you, so in all terms Q doesn't exist. Now then, I ran across a different way for you to bring her out in a scroll so she can have access to her kitsune abilities, specifically illusion. Now all I ask is that you three don't ever tell me about your activities and I'll overlook the whole thing. The Hokage clarified. After discovering the method in the scroll the Yondaime made for such a situation, she gave them the new procedure to release her after all three accepted her terms. Before he used the new jutsu, Q vanished into Naruto while still wearing her shorts and t-shirt. She then reappeared wearing her exquisite white and silver kimono, but without ears or tails. You look good Q-chan, but I think I'll miss the tails and ears, so feel free to let yourself out when you're around Hinata-chan and I, said the blonde shinobi. After saying goodbye to the Hokage, she led the way out of the office with the other two following, each holding onto the blonde. Yeah sure, let's go. For a while, they strolled aimlessly, Q growing increasingly aloof. Q-chan, what's wrong? You haven't been yourself since we left the Hokages, Naruto responded. The vixen listed and felt guilty for trying to push him away from someone he could genuinely be happy with. I know, it is just that I realized I was still trying to ruin your life by wanting you all to myself when I couldn't give you anything but my love and sex. I see now why you were drawn to Hinata-chan. She is gorgeous, cute, sexy, kind, loving, has an awesome pussy, and can give you children. He gently squeezed her hand and asked, so that is what has you down, knowing that we can't have children? She looked at the ground and said, yes it is, I never had children and I am just now facing the fact that I never will be able to. With tears in her eyes, Q turned to the young Hyuga and asked, so Q-chan, would it be possible to pass some of your chakra into me when I have sex with Naruto-kun when we try to conceive to give the child a piece of you so all three of us have a claim as parents? Q asked hopefully, it should work, but would you really want that Hinata-chan? I could never ask you to do that. Well, you are a part of Naruto-kun, so in a way I do love you as well, so yeah, I would like it if you were a part of our children. And your pussy is very pretty as well, just so you know, she responded with a blush. Now that she was feeling better, Q was teasing, saying, thank you, but I really like how wet yours gets. Having every fold of skin, literally, dripping wet kind of turns me on. Hinata continued the conversation by placing Naruto in an awkward position between two attractive women discussing sex. Is getting that wet really that good? I found it to be inconvenient when I always had to change my underwear when I thought of Naruto-kun, and during very nice dreams of him, I'd have to change the sheets, which would happen almost every night. Would you two quit talking about your beautiful wet pussies until we're alone? I can't take you both right here and now, so keep it zipped up. Now where do you guys want to go for dinner? We have managed to miss breakfast and lunch, he asked as he attempted to change the subject. Hinata muttered, ramen is fine Naruto-kun. The vixen cheerfully replied, yeah, I want to see if it tastes as good here as it did in your dreams. With a broad smile that was only found on ramen, Naruto remarked, you two are just too perfect. I love the both of you. Hinata said sharply, and you should love us or you're not getting either of us in bed. Before they hung their heads lightly, Hinata glanced back at Q and said, sure I won't. I know the two of you and you won't be able to stay away from me. As they all laughed, Q said, you're right. You can take us anytime you want. That's good to hear, so then, let's go to Ichiraku's. Naruto sat in the center of the group as they all arrived at the restaurant and took their seats at the counter. Before entering the village, they hurriedly ate their meals after giving the grinning store owner their orders. Hey Naruto. A fresh voice said. When the three of them heard this, they halted and turned to face the voice, only to notice a person wearing genin with a scarf. As he approached, Naruto said, what do you want Konohamaru? When he saw him holding the hands of two stunning women, he responded, well, I was going to show you my new jutsu that trumps your sexy jutsu, but I think you beat me to it. Naruto smirked and said, well, I would say having two real women by your side is better than any clone. So they are real? Konohamaru asked, sticking his finger into Q's stomach before the vixen grabbed it. She put pressure on the finger and said, hey kid, only Naruto-kun is allowed to touch me without injury, so back off. Evidently terrified of the vixen, Konohamaru hurried away from the scene and said, yeah, sorry. I'll leave you guys alone now. After witnessing the young genin leave in that manner, Naruto began, well, that was interesting. Now, I was wondering if you all would like to get new clothes. Since Q-chan doesn't have any clothing here, she would need some because I like having her out here like a normal person. I'd like that. I was in the mood for some different clothes as well since I don't need to display the Hyuga symbol anymore. Hinata said with a cheerful voice. Q, who was now grinning in the hopes of achieving her goal, said, if it wouldn't be too strange, I think we should wear almost matching outfits to show that we belong to each other. What do you think Naruto-kun? Naruto gave in easily and said, I guess I'm fine with it as long as you two are. The two women escorted Naruto to the nearby clothing store, where the male proprietor was too preoccupied to notice that Naruto was in the store with them. Okay, then Q-chan, let's go find some clothes. They chose to dress the group simply rather than in an unusual way. Initially, the two women wore capri pants similar to those worn by Hinata, but they were extremely tight, showcasing their curves. Hinata had to switch from her lacy underwear to a thong because the pants were so tight, but she detested them and chose to wear nothing because the material was unique in that it would wick away moisture, allowing her to get as excited as she wanted and still keep her underwear dry. Q went commando because he liked her style. After dressing Naruto in his usual black cargo pants, they selected a variety of colors for form, fitting, low-cut shirts and placed them in various places with a combination of the Hyuga flame, the Uzumaki spiral, and a fox, which is similar to the symbol in the story walking the line between life and death, but I was too lazy to make another. Their chests made it obvious that they were also braless, which Naruto saw. After exchanging glances and noticing the same thing, the two vixens located black overcoats and put them on like Anko before throwing one to Naruto to wear over his Go.to dark orange shirt. Well then, I guess you liked my usual style since we basically added a coat to it, but you guys are dead sexy in those tight clothes. I'm also glad you decided to wear the coats since I didn't want to kill all the local male population for eyeing you too. Although I do have a question, how do your tails work with clothing that doesn't accommodate them? That is easy. I created a skill that instantly modifies them if I shift forms. I used to wreck dozens of clothes before I figured that out, he replied. Before figuring out how to pay for everything, the three of them approached the counter with their heavy purchases and said, niece, well, how about we get out of here? To avoid being overheard, Hinata muttered, Naruto-kun, how are we going to buy this stuff? I didn't bring money, and you don't have this much. I didn't before I found a new source of income. Have you noticed the increase of females wearing your sandal? He responded with a whisper. She asked in astonishment, yes, so are you saying all those shoes are from that one store? Before they paid for their things and returned to the newly remodeled apartment, Hinata and Kyu gave him passionate kisses. Yep, he hired 3 helpers to try and keep production up, but they are still on back order. I have more than enough from my percentage of the profits to pay for these. That and I have the other 11 pair you wanted as well as a few in Kyu Chan's size. The 3 of them collapsed on the couch, feeling worn out. You know, moving all that furniture around sure takes a lot out of a person. I'm wasted. Naruto replied. Yeah, I know what you mean. Do you think we could skip sex for tonight? I still feel a bit sore from my first time and I am too exhausted to put my heart into it, informed the drained Hyuga. In an attempt to avoid hurting her, Naruto pondered, I didn't know you were still sore from last night. Was it really that rough? No, you were extremely gentle. Most girls don't have something that large pushed inside us early in life, so it just stretched everything quite a bit. I should be fine tomorrow, she reassured. Naruto asked, what do you mean by most? She meant that there are a lot of females that use alternate devices on themselves for their pleasure, so when they do have sex it is almost like they aren't virgins. The fox laughed. She made a hand gesture that made everyone's eyes wide. Exactly, I didn't want anything other than a real one in me, but others like to use them, like Tenten. She showed me what she uses once and I really feel sorry for whoever she dates since I don't think anyone can live up to that expectation. It was huge. Naruto reflected on the past and said, I never really placed you as someone that would talk of these things. You were always so innocent when we were younger. It was mostly a lie. I've had fantasies about you for a long time, and now you have to face the fact that we are all 18 and it is natural for us to think of sex. I am just a lot more open now that you have accepted my love. Hinata lets out an enormous yawn. Can we go to bed? I'm tired. Sure. How would you ladies like to sleep? If it is okay with Kyu Chan, I'd like to sleep the same as last night. The fox told her, that's fine, I'm really starting to like you in my own way. And then stripped her naked. When Hinata saw how big her breasts were, she had an idea. Kyu Chan, when you go braless, how do you keep your boobs from bouncing around? I found it hard to keep mine from moving too much. Actually, I haven't ever worn a bra. There's a little technique that can hold them in place using chakra. It doesn't need a constant flow of chakra to keep it going either, so you just need to place the jutsu in the morning like using a bra. I'll teach it to you later if you want, the woman replied. She stripped off her clothes and said, that would be very good. Hinata stood erect at Kyu's side, her tails now bare, and said, Naruto-kun, are you coming to bed? After glancing at his 2 naked vixens, Naruto got up to join them. Kyu smiled and said, oh, and there is a rule from now on. No clothes allowed in bed. When the attention was drawn to his rigid soldier standing at full attention, he readily gave in and began to slide off his boxers, exposing himself. Hinata smiled and joked, I thought I said I was not up for sex, Naruto-kun. The 2 girls laughed at his cheesy joke before going to bed. I see gorgeous women and it has a mind of its own. It'll always be up for sex. Since Kyu and Naruto were sleeping almost on top of Hinata, it looked like they were fighting over who got to give her the tightest hug. They all settled down on the roomy mattress and fell into a comfortable sleep. Tsunade was up in her office reviewing the routine mission requests for the early hours of the morning. The jonin she had sent for finally arrived after an hour of shuffled papers. Kakashi, it is about time. How many times have I told you to get here on time? It isn't hard to do, you know, the Hokage yelled. Sorry, I guess I just got lost on the, Kurenai asked, clearly annoyed. Yeah, the road of life, or was it the old lady already? That's enough, I have a mission for your teams. You will be traveling to the land of waves that was freed from the tyranny of Gato about 3 years back by Kakashi's team. We have been overseeing the establishment of a ninja academy and they are just now ready to start their training, but don't have the proper teachers. You will be training the teachers and the students for the duration of the mission, which is undetermined until you receive your replacements. Expect about 3.6 months. This will be relatively easy mission, so feel free to allow the 8 of you to relax a bit between classes and training. You should leave as soon as possible, she told them. The silver-haired jonin reminded them, wait, the 8 of us? Team Kakashi is a member short. Not anymore, I have filled the spot yesterday so you don't have to worry. He left before the Hokage could stop him, saying, okay, I'll tell Naruto. The red-eyed jonin nodded quickly and vanished. Shit, Kurenai, I have a new mission for you. You must stop Kakashi and inform Naruto of his mission yourself. Do not let him wake up Naruto, don't question me, you'll find out why. Distracting Kakashi with different works of literature that were disguised as the perverted books he read was simple. Following the never-ending trail of books, Kurenai finally made it to Naruto's apartment. The previous night was exceptionally warm, so the window was open, giving her direct access to the bedroom, where she saw a heap of flesh. She saw that all three were completely nude, embracing her typically bashful pupil and the young girl in the center, whom she instantly recognized. Her voice was loud enough for the three to hear. "Hinata, wake up." When Hinata's eyes opened and she saw her sensei, she was the only one awake. She inquired curiously, "Kurenai, sensei, what are you doing here?" "I was sent to inform you that you have a mission for the next 3.6 months, Kurenai clarified. The little Hyuga whimpered, "Why so long? I just started to enjoy my time back." "Well, I see you have definitely been having fun, but don't worry, Team Kakashi will be going as well, but I doubt the others will allow you to have your fun, but at least you won't be apart," guaranteed Kurenai. She gave in and said, "Well, I guess that is okay. Now then, I see that your bottom half hasn't changed since you were 12, you always look so young when you were naked. If I didn't know better, I'd say that you are still 12, the Jonin responded. Hinata asked, "Is that good?" Q stretched out and exposed her entire body to the intruding Jonin, explaining, "I think she is just saying that you would be very tight during sex, which you are. So from how Naruto-kun like being in you, I'd say it is very good." Before focusing on her fur, she took in the attractive appearance of the busty girl. Naruto yawned and said, "So Kurenai, what are you staring at?" Incredulously, she answered, "Her fur." He smirked and said, "The fur on her tails or the fur between her legs?" Laughing, Hinata pleaded, "Naruto-kun, stop. So, I'm guessing that this other woman is somehow the Kyuubi since she has all those tails, either that or you two need your heads examined for dressing someone up as a fox just to have sex with her," Kurenai said while continuing to look at her. Hinata chirped, "No sensei, that is the Kyuubi. We call her Q-chan." "Okay. Well, you should meet up with everyone at the gate. I'd expect that Q is the new member of Team Kakashi, so I'll see you all there." A pale-eyed girl was perplexed and asked, "Wait, Kurenai. Sensei, why are you so accepting of this?" "Everyone is curious, but very few ever find out what it is like to have multiple sex partners at the same time, so I would wager that you had more fun with 3 than you did with 2, she replied. Well, Naruto-kun's and my first time was with the 3 of us, so I haven't had sex alone, nor will I get to or want to. It is amazing as it is, so I'm not changing it. Besides, Q will always be with us since she can't go too far from Naruto-kun or she will disappear," explained Hinata. "Fair enough, now hurry up and get dressed. I stalled Kakashi from coming here because Tsunade-sama thought it wouldn't be good for him to find you 3 naked together." Naruto got out of bed and said, "I guess Ba-chan has some good points." Kurenai saw Naruto getting up and said, "Hey Naruto, I'm still here. So, I'm sure you've seen a guy's dick before, so it shouldn't be anything new. Come on girls, we need to shower quickly before the perv shows. Thank you for showing up before Kakashi, Kurenai, that would have been bad." The red-eyed Jonin then went back out the window and into the village to tell the rest of her team, "Okay, but when you 3 take a shower, make sure to keep your hands to yourself so you don't get lost in playing around. We should leave as soon as possible. Why is everyone so accepting of us having threesomes? First my father, then Tsunade-sama, and now Kurenai-sensei. Well, I think it is because they know Q-chan is kind of stuck with me, and that you are here for increasing fun and the ability to have children. Also, I think all of them want to be in this situation at least once. Now get in the shower or I'll have to carry you," he laughed. With a radiant smile, Hinata answered, "Okay, carry me then." When Q jumped on his back, Naruto felt her soft rack press against his back, so he scooped her up bridal style and headed to the shower. Q reminded them, "You carry her, you have to carry me, no favorites." As he carried them into the shower, Naruto simply laughed. After exerting a great deal of self-control to avoid playing with each other while they were washing, they exited the small shower and quickly changed into their new clothes, not seeming to mind the intimacy. Hinata pulled out her other large travel bag, which held all of her camping supplies, and examined it while she packed the rest of her clothes in one large bag and wore her corny lavender shirt. After pulling out his enormous clothing bag and packing all of his belongings inside, Q changed into a white shirt, handed Naruto her stuffed bag, and then dressed in a forest green shirt. "Well, I guess it looks like we are all packed for a few months, let's get going," he said. Naruto stopped Hinata as she went to get her bags. "I couldn't let my beautiful vixens carry their luggage, it wouldn't be gentlemanly." Hinata remarked, "But you can't carry all that, it isn't right." Q knew what he was going to do and said, "It's okay, cutie, let him carry them, he is just being a show-off for you." Before hitting his hands on the tiny rug, Like object, Naruto went over some hand signals and said, "Aw, man, you ruin all the fun Q-chan." A massive scroll that was almost 6 feet long was left on the ground after the enormous amount of luggage vanished in a puff of smoke. Hinata was astounded. She had witnessed tendon-engraved weapons on scrolls, but not to this extent. As she opened her mouth to speak, Naruto made more hand gestures, and the scroll vanished, leaving 4 tiny scrolls in its place, leaving her even more in awe. After picking up the 4 scrolls and putting them in his pants pockets, he put on his overcoat and made his way to the door. She exclaimed, "That was amazing, Naruto-kun." Hinata continued to smile at him before the 2 women put on their coats and followed him out the door. "No, it's just a simple ceiling. The real part of using that is having the special carpet to use in the ceiling. The rest is as easy as the technique Tenten uses." On their way to the gates, the 3 attracted attention simply because 2 of Konoha's most attractive women were dressed almost identically, with tight shirts that exposed plenty of cleavage but were sufficiently covered by their overcoats to pique everyone's interest. All eyes were on them as they got closer to the other members of the group, well, except for Kakashi, who was nowhere to be seen. Kurenai slipped a little in her remark, "You 3 look good in clothes, those clothes." All 3 realized their mistake and flushed, with the exception of Q, who didn't find it awkward at all. Sakura looked at his opponents and said, "So Naruto, who are these 2? One of them looked very familiar." "Well, you should know Hinata-chan. Her nice eyes give that away, and finally this is Q-chan. I met her on my travels with Jiraiya." He introduced her. "Really, that's Hinata? She is so much more confident, and why are you dressed alike?" Sakura asked. Kiba frowned slightly and said, "Well, I think Hinata and Naruto are together now." "Really? How do you figure?" she returned, ignoring the parties in question. As he turned to pet his enormous dog, he responded, "I just figured that when I picked her up for the last mission, I saw the 2 of them making out." Sakura looked over at the other woman and said, disgustingly, "Okay, but what I want to know is why someone who isn't even a ninja will be traveling with us. The last thing we need is someone to get in the way." In an attempt to provoke her, Hinata told Sakura, "You shouldn't have said that. Sakura, Q-chan can be very irritable." After she finished speaking, Sakura felt a little cold. "And what could she possibly do to me?" she asked. "Well, she has already done it, and I never expected you to be a stuffer," said Naruto. Unable to understand his words, Sakura turned to face the other members of the group, where Kiba was grinning oddly at her. The 3 similarly dressed people were laughing, and even Shino had lowered the rims of his glasses to get a better look. Sakura then turned to face Q and saw that she was holding a shirt and a heavily padded bra. Covering herself with her arms, she screamed, "You damn worthless bitch, give me back my clothes." When Q threw the clothes to Sakura, she grabbed for them, releasing her grip on her barely B-sized chest and flaunting them once more. "I'd rather not be called anything dealing with dogs, but if you're going to call me an animal, how about a vixen, a female fox?" While dressing, she declared, "I'm going to kill you." Kurenai grinned and said, "Congratulations, Q. You passed the test. Here is your Konoha headband." Similar to Hinata, Q wrapped the headband around her neck. After realizing it was only a test, Sakura eventually composed herself and directed the last of her resentment toward her sensei for being late once more. The aforementioned ninja swept through the group at that precise moment. Before he left the gate to Wave Country, he slurred, "Lost en road of life, going to be late, gotta go by." The others wondered why he was in such a hurry until they noticed a group of women wearing towels running through directly behind him. Kurenai laughed and led the group to their destination, saying, "Oops, I guess my genjutsu landed him in the hot springs. I knew there was something I forgot to do." They discovered Kakashi at the side of the road, somewhat bruised, with what appeared to be a smile on his face, approximately 2 hours later. Naruto said, "Let's go, Ero-sensei." Then he kicked him, waking him from his reverie. The group continued to stroll and converse, but Kiba was taking advantage of the opportunity to brag about the new ninja's strength and cool moves. Q was easily ignoring him because she was currently working on a plan to enable her, Hinata, and Naruto to communicate with each other without speaking. "Alright, we need to figure out who should be teaching what when we get to Wave, so Kurenai and I will be testing you throughout the journey. You will not likely know when it is a test of not, so treat everything like it is one." Everyone agreed with Kakashi's logic. Soon after, as night fell, the group located a small clearing by a river and dropped off their belongings. As soon as Kakashi was done, Kiba began to blurt out his suggestion, saying, "Okay, we need to set up camp. I'll let you guys decide who does what, and leave the Jonin out of your decisions." He said authoritatively, as if it were clear, Naruto and Sakura should find the food, Hinata and Shino should find the wood, and Chan and I should stay here and set up camp. Kurenai said, okay, interesting suggestion. Any complaints? Sakura and Kakashi sighed as Naruto spoke up right away, knowing that his suggestion would be worse. Sakura and Kakashi appeared stunned that he had actually thought of a plan that wasn't foolish and had good points. Well, his suggestion sucked, almost everything was wrong. Sakura and Kiba should get the wood since between her strength and Akamaru they can carry that out easier. Hinata Chan should stay here with Shino to set up camp since they can easily keep an eye on the surrounding area in case someone shows up, and I'll go with Chan to locate the food. Has to go with him otherwise she will disappear. Kurenai made Kiba look foolish by asking the group, alright, how about objections to that one? In an attempt to infuriate Hinata, Kiba responded, I got one, I think Naruto wants to be alone with Chan so he can make passes at her without Hinata knowing about it. I think they might secretly be lovers. Kiba hoped that by doing this, he would have a better chance of getting into her pants on a rebound thing than he was with the new girl. The irony of how true that statement was made Naruto, Hinata, and Kurenai laugh uncontrollably, while the others simply stared in confusion, wondering why they were all laughing at such a charge. Kiba simply hung his head, realizing that his plan had failed miserably and that he would never be pursuing any of the ladies. Don't worry Kiba. Hinata knows that he wouldn't do anything to jeopardize the relationship he has with some quick thing in the woods. Any real objections? Inquired Kakashi. Sakura nodded in agreement as Shino told them, his plan is sufficient, no changes should be needed. Kurenai ordered, okay, that's settled, go to it. The group dispersed and each member went off to do their own thing. Although Kiba complained a little, Sakura's strength scared him to silence him. The other two performed their duties without any problems or complaints. Following their meal, they discussed a variety of topics, including every detail of the mission. After being made fully aware of the expectations, Kiba made the decision to try to add some more variation. Well, since we will be teaching, that means that we all have to be at least Chunin to teach, and since the Chunin exams are already underway, then there is no way for Naruto or to become Chunin and they will remain as Genin, so they aren't worth even bringing on this mission, so why did we bring them? The dog boy replied. Hinata's shout, Kiba that was uncalled for, startled people who weren't accustomed to a more assured Hyuga. Kiba grinned and said, well, they're dead weight, I don't even know why you tried so hard to get the attention of a person that can't even graduate from Genin. However, what startled the group the most was that Naruto didn't say anything in response and instead let Hinata handle it. Hinata got up and stormed out of the camp, saying, Kiba, you and me, we need to talk. Away from everyone. Kiba didn't follow, believing her to be a fake angry person. Over here now, she commanded, unintentionally using her Byakugan. In an instant after that outburst, Kiba was on her feet, following her. Hinata halted and faced him after they had moved far from the group. Hinata's tone begged for a prompt response. Now what is your problem with Naruto-kun? He hasn't done anything to you and you try to put him down and you even attempted to tear me down in the process. You always tried to better yourself and get stronger just so he would notice you but he never did and then he left. I've been helping you train constantly for years since then and now in a few days he finally sees your beauty and he is all over you and you let him, it's disgusting. Does he even care about you or does he just want to get in your pants? So that is what your problem is, you are jealous. You have been trying to destroy what I have with him just so you can swoop in and pick up what is left. Why? He answered, because I care for you. You knew full well that I liked, and even loved, Naruto-kun for many years and you helped me train just to get closer to me in the process hoping I would like you? What did you see in me that you liked so much to be so damn selfish? His cheeks slightly flushed as he said, well, I've seen you beauty and ever since that one time I couldn't get you out of my mind. That's it? You based all this just on that time that you walked in on me mostly undressed? You haven't noticed any other qualities? You can't even compare to Naruto-kun. He loves me for me. He doesn't judge me, and I found out he never did. I could have not even trained at all and still be a weak genin and he would still have accepted me, she yelled furiously. Kiba reiterated, he doesn't love you, he is just saying that to get you in bed. I know him better than almost anyone and he knows everything that has happened in my life that you don't even know, so don't try to mess this up again. You don't have any other feelings other than lust for me since you keep dwelling on my naked form. Now quit being so childish and get over it. This is very unprofessional. Kiba waited for everything to sink in before realizing she was right. He was just as attracted to Sakura seeing her chest earlier as he was to Hinata. Sorry, I guess you were right. I think I was just jealous. Aw man, this sucks. The good-hearted woman reassured her, don't get so down, there is someone out there for you. You just need to keep looking. He brightened at the thought and said, I guess, what about Q? In an attempt to conceal the true reason she was different, she told him, you don't want Q. Chan. She is, different, and she is already in love. Crap, maybe there will be someone in Wave. Thanks for talking to me like this. I really needed that kick in the head. They both returned to the fire, sat down once more, and warmed themselves by it. Sure, now let's head back before Naruto gets worried. Calmly, everything fine now? Naruto inquired. She gave him a quick kiss and sat next to him, allowing Kakashi to finish his announcement. Yes, everything is sorted out now, Naruto-kun. Good, now that you have gotten back I can continue. Naruto and Q have been given a temporary field promotion to Chunin. Naruto has too many jutsu in his arsenal to allow him into the exam anyways, so he was being promoted before we accepted this mission, but must still have a test before it is final. Now everyone get to sleep. We already have a good set of traps and genjutsu set up for protection, and Shino's bugs are on patrol, so we can all sleep. Guys in one tent, girls in the other. Following Kakashi's meeting, everyone dispersed to collect their belongings. Given that they would be spending the night apart, Hinata gave Naruto a passionate kiss. Q slipped into the forest to avoid prying eyes while they were sharing a kiss. Hinata ducked into her tent after they broke off their kiss, while Naruto went off in a different direction, claiming to be going to take care of business before turning around and meeting up with his other vixen. He took her lips with his without saying anything, mimicking Hinata's earlier performance in which they were unaware of their surroundings. Q, I was wondering if Sakura became enraged when she noticed her teammate making out with the girl with the dark hair. Sakura rushed off to reveal what she had discovered with the young Hyuga, while Naruto merely gazed at his girlfriend. Naruto, you two-timing bastard. I should kill you now, but it would be better for Hinata to do that first. You are despicable, Sakura exclaimed. So I guess that's another one down. It is going to be an interesting day tomorrow with her knowing everything. Feel free to tell her who you really are when you get back, and we might be able to avoid needing the telepathic technique you're working on, but it might still come in handy. He kissed her once more before hugging her thin frame. Good night, Q. Chan, give Hinata Chan a kiss for me. They both parted ways and headed to their tents after saying, okay Naruto-kun, good night. While Q discovered everyone awake and a furious medic seemingly waiting for her return, Naruto simply encountered sleeping ninja and took up his position by the door. She angrily told the tent's occupants, now that everyone is here, I have some bad news. Hinata, Naruto is cheating on you with Q. I saw him making out with her. Q saw Hinata's phony rage and chose to comply, asking, Q. Chan, is this true? Have you been secretly trying to steal away my man? She responded in a better than you manner, saying, well, maybe he wouldn't come to me if you really knew how to please him. You should just give up on him, you're outclassed. Hinata started making hand signals for a jutsu right away, frightening the medic to death. I don't think so, you fox whore. I won't let you take him. She jumped to the ground and covered her head, screaming, Hinata, you can't do that in a tent. Or something similar. Sakura glanced up at the other residents when she began to hear them laughing. While Hinata and Q were in a heap of laughter, Kurenai was laughing in her sleeping bag. What the hell? Hinata, I thought you were going to kill us all. With a charming tone, Hinata questioned, now why would I do that? Sakura emphasized, well, Naruto was cheating on you. Hinata questioned, it isn't really cheating if I let him now, is it? Sakura looked from one occupant to another and asked, what do you mean? Oh, before I forget, Naruto-kun told me to give you this. Q kissed Hinata for 3 seconds, closing the distance between them. Sakura simply stared at them in silence as they undressed, leaving them completely nude in the tent. Huh, wah. Sakura said as they climbed into the same sleeping bag, Q embracing Hinata's back and cuddling with her for the night. Still confused, Sakura said, I don't get it. Things are complicated between the three of us. Q is Naruto's girlfriend, and he is my fiancé. Sakura questioned, but how is that even allowed? Q made the decision to make some announcements. There is a special connection between Naruto-kun and I am a being of immense power that was sealed inside of him at his birth. Technically I am still sealed there, but he can give me a body outside of him. Q disclosed this as if it were routine. With the intention of making a joke, Sakura asked, so you are like what, a demon? Actually yes, a fox demon to be more precise, one with 9 tails. Still perplexed, the medic said, wait, you're a 9 tailed fox demon? I thought there was only ever one of those. There is. I am the Kyuubi that attacked the village, but I was under the influence of Orochimaru at the time. Demons aren't all evil and I am one of the kind ones. Sakura defended again, asking, how do I know you aren't under his influence now and are just waiting for a time to attack? Because I love Naruto-kun and wouldn't do anything to jeopardize our sex life. What? Hinata, you let her have sex with him? Yeah. She has only done it once and I was with them, so it isn't bad, it was actually very fun. Since she is sealed inside him, he is the only person she could be with and was very lonely, said Hinata. Whoa, are you saying you two share Naruto? At Kurenai's request, they ceased their conversation and quickly fell asleep, with Hinata content to simply feel the safety of being held. Yes they do, they were sleeping together last night. Now let's get some sleep, there is much traveling to do tomorrow. Once again, it was morning, and everyone was beginning to prepare for the day. Just as Sakura woke up and was staring at her, Hinata took her warm, nude body out of the sleeping bag she shared with Q and began searching through it for some clothes. The woman with the pink hair remarked, you know you still look like a 12-year-old aside from those large breasts of yours. She began putting on her tight pants after responding, I'm not sure if I should take that as a compliment or not. Given how obvious it was, she asked, take it as you want, I'm just envious of you Hyuga women, it is a pain to shave your legs. Anyways, you actually don't wear any underwear? She slipped her shirt over her firm chest and said, nope, with these tight pants I can't wear mine, and wearing a thong is like wearing nothing as it is, so why bother? She asked again from a medical perspective, did you bring something else other than those for other times during a month? Not really, I don't have those since I've been on a birth control jutsu. When did you go on that? The day I saw Naruto-kun back in the village. I knew after that day I was going to give myself to him, but then I walked in on him and Chan half-dressed sleeping in his bed before I knew about her and nearly left him. I then realized that if I forced him to choose between two women that he loved, he would choose me since I will be the one to give him kids, but I just couldn't hurt him or Chan like that, so I went against my gut feeling and had sex with both of them. I first thought it would be really dirty to do that, but I really couldn't be happier now. I really have a family that loves me and cares for me openly. Q took herself out of the bag and wrapped her arms around her. As the still, naked fox sat down in front of Hinata, she smiled and accepted the offered brush, saying, I really don't know how he would have survived without you. I'm really glad you came back to him even if I really wanted him to myself. Now would you mind helping with my tails, they're a mess. As she began to brush the smooth fur, she became aware that Sakura was observing them closely. As she took it from her bag, Hinata declared, I have another brush if you want to help. Sakura nodded her head silently and positioned herself to brush the fur. As she continued to brush the red tails, she remarked, they're so soft, you couldn't be a bad demon if you care for your fur this well. Through the door, Naruto muttered, hey you guys decent in there? No, but there's nothing that you haven't seen before, so come in, replied Sakura. He entered the big tent with caution, grinned at the people inside, and then kissed each of his girls. Morning Chan, Hinata, Chan, oh and morning Sakura, Kurenai. The two young, dark-haired women chorused, morning to you too Naruto-kun. As Sakura continued to brush the fur, she said, yeah what they said. Kurenai inquired, are the guys awake yet? Just barely, I was awake early since I haven't slept without someone in my arms in about a year and I missed having my girls with me. Well I suppose that is a problem, if you three can promise to not get busy on the way, I'll see what I can do to get you in your own tent, but you'll need to come clean with the others, Kurenai replied. Before leaving the tent, Naruto gave the two another kiss and said, sounds fair, most know about it already, so it should be fine. Don't hide your tails this morning Chan. That'll get their attention, which is if they even notice. While Q remained motionless for a while longer, allowing Sakura to brush her tails, Hinata followed him out without the overcoat. Naruto saw the little figure smiling behind him and asked, is there something you want? His smile expanded as he extended his hand to her, which she eagerly accepted. Well, there are a few things, but that can wait. I just wanted to be with you. At the silent tent, Naruto shouted, hey guys, you ready yet? In response to something Kiba muttered, he finally heard some complaining and stirring, followed by one or two barks. In a sleepy voice, he heard Kiba shout, yeah, we're up already. As he waited for everyone to come out of their tents, Naruto sat against a tree with Hinata in his lap, running his fingers softly through her hair and down her back. After waiting for Sakura and Q to emerge for about 15 minutes, all of the guys and Kurenai were outside enjoying the breakfast Naruto had made earlier. At last, Sakura and Kyu emerged, both without jackets, and in all their talons, causing the guys to turn to stare at her chest and the clinginess of her pants, crotch. Holding Hinata's hand, Naruto walked to the group and said, "Alright guys. There is something I want you all to know about Kyu, Chan and me. First is the origin of Kyu, Chan. I know Kakashi should recognize who and what she is in a moment, and Shino has most likely had his suspicions about her, so I will come out and say it bluntly. Kyu, Chan is also known as the Kyuubi. After a technique of Orochimaru's, she was locked into a rage and attacked Konoha, where the Yondaime saw she was not evil and decided to preserve her life at the cost of his sealing her inside of a newborn child, me." Naruto watched as Kiba responded, "So all was well. So anyways, she came out of her rage on my 16th birthday, and shortly after Ero, Senin and I made it so she could come out here and enjoy the pleasures of being among the living again. She isn't able to go more than 30 yards away from me without disappearing, since she is still sealed within me, and to top it all off, she was very lonely and is basically like my girlfriend." Naruto rambled on, preventing any opportunity for discussion. With a slightly perverted tone, Kakashi questioned, "So what type of relationship do the three of you really have?" His question, which was primarily aimed at the other two group members, was, "One many times better than your book has, so enough of that. How do you guys feel about all this?" "I'm unchanged. As long as Hinata is happy with it, I'm fine, and I was suspecting something similar to this, but this is still surprising," the hooded Shino said dryly. Still in shock, Kiba said, "Damn, now I'm really jealous. You get two hot girls," and said little else. Naruto turned to face the group, who all exchanged glances before turning back to him. "Alright, I think this is all wrong. Isn't there a single person in this entire country that has a problem with me having sex with two women at the same time?" he asked. In unison, they all said, "Nope, sounds like fun." Hinata and Kyu laughed at him before latching onto him and kissing his cheeks. "And all this time I thought girls hate perverts. I guess they only hate the openly perverted. I give up," they said. Following the brief meeting, the group proceeded with their journey. Since everyone knew to keep their eyes to themselves, Naruto's two vixens chose not to wear their coats, and Kyu was able to maintain her tailed state because they were no longer close to Konoha. After another leisurely 2 days of travel, they arrived at the enormous bridge that led into the small country. There were no issues along the way, unlike the last time they traveled through the countryside to wave. Naruto shouted, "Hey Sakura, Kakashi, there's that huge bridge we helped protect," as he started toward the enormous landmark and stopped when he got to the start of it. As the group crossed the bridge, Hinata was amazed by the size of the structure and inquired, "What is it called, Naruto-kun?" I don't really know. I'd expect it to be called the ultra-cool massively awesome bridge that Tazuna made, but I could be wrong." The group all burst out laughing at him for being so foolish, but that quickly subsided when an elderly man greeted them. "Actually, I wanted to call it the totally awesome bridge Tazuna made, but yours sounded much better," he said. Naruto shouted, "Hey old man," and the man grinned. Relying on a remnant of her former self, Hinata asked shyly, "Excuse me sir, but what really is the name of the bridge?" "Well, we actually decided to name it after the person that brought back our will to fight. It is the Great Naruto Bridge," he said. Naruto snarled at each of them, "Really? That's awesome. I'm not so funny now, huh?" "Sorry for laughing at you, Naruto-kun," Hinata said, giving him an apologetic kiss. In order to keep Hinata from being outdone, Kyu matched the kiss Hinata gave him and commented, "You still are funny, but we still love you." Tazuna grinned broadly as he observed them. With a sly laugh, he said, "Well, it seems like our hero has himself a little group thing going. I approve." After leading the group through the now bustling city, Tazuna said, "So then, how about I take you to where you'll be staying? I have just the place." He eventually arrived at a house that 3 of the travelers were familiar with. There are only 3 rooms, so I would suggest the largest for the guys, 1 for the girls, and 1 for Naruto, since I think he hasn't had much privacy during the trip. The old man said, "Here we are. I'm sure Tsunami and Inari will be surprised to see you, Naruto, and you all are welcome." Kyu simply smiled, while Hinata and Naruto blushed deeply. Everyone could still hear Kyu ask him in a low voice, "How thick are the walls?" Very well insulated. I would say anything short of a foghorn wouldn't be heard." "Perfect." Everyone chuckled at her inquiries, fully aware of what would be taking place inside. Naruto took Hinata's hand and dragged her in the direction of the house, choosing to stay away from the direction of the conversation. As he chased after him, Kyu yelled, Hey, wait for me, Naruto-kun. You can't start without me. The others laughed even harder and followed them inside the house. When Naruto rushed through the door, he said, "Hey, Tsunami." The blonde shinobi was standing there when the woman, who was lounging on the couch, looked up and grinned. She stood up and turned to face the other people flowing into the house. "Naruto, it's good to see you again. Inari will be quite happy to see you as well. You've got a different group with you this time. Who are they all?" "Well, you already know Kakashi, Sensei and Sakura, but the others are Kurenai, the older but still pretty one. Kiba is the one that looks like a dog, and Akamaru is his dog, which is outside because he is huge. Shino is the quiet one in the hood, and now the gorgeous one to my left is Hinata. Chan, my fiancé, and the stunning one to my right with the tails is Q. Chan, my girlfriend." He introduced them. "Well, it is good to meet you all. I'll have dinner ready in about 3 hours from now when Inari gets home, so please let's sit and chat. I'd like to hear more about Naruto and his girls. I've always wanted to try a 2-on-1 relationship." Naruto threw up his arms in desperation and screamed, "Gah, it's an epidemic. I truly think that everyone in the world is a pervert." "No, we aren't all perverts, we are humans. Humans are sexual beings, and having curious thoughts about it is quite normal for everyone of age. You can't be seen as a pervert unless you go out of your way for your curiosity, like peeping and openly reading dirty books," Tsunami stated with a stern look at Kakashi. They all discussed various topics and assisted Tsunami in starting to prepare dinner when a young adolescent ran through the back door. "Well, that still makes Kakashi, Sensei and Ero Senin perverts, so I guess it works." As he rushed into the kitchen, Inari exclaimed, "Mom, we're getting real ninja teachers tomorrow." As he continued to assist with the setup, Naruto grinned broadly and said, "Hey Inari, guess who's helping teach?" "Naruto!" exclaimed Inari, who was also beaming broadly. He blushed and said, "Who are those hotties that are here as well?" Uncertain of his age, he responded, "That's Q. Chan and Hinata. Chan, they are very good friends of mine." He returned with a cunning grin and asked, "And how good are you good friends?" Naruto crossed his arms and said, "None of your business." The women in the room started to giggle. They had a typical dinner and discussed the lessons being taught in the academy. Before long, everyone was exhausted and ready to go to bed. After expressing gratitude to Tsunami and Tazuna for their hospitality, they all retired to their rooms, leaving Naruto and his vixens by themselves in their shared room. Tsunami arrived at the trio's door just before 6 in the morning. The door was unlocked, so she walked in and grinned at the blonde trapped beneath the 2 stunning girls who were still fully naked from the night's events. Shortly after she called, she noticed 3 sets of startled eyes staring at the intruder. "Hey guys, wake up. I brought you fresh sheets since you probably messed up yours, and some towels. We only have 1 shower, so I suggest you 3 take one first before everyone else gets up. I'll wait half an hour before waking the others." Hinata smiled and said, "You are very kind, Tsunami. Thank you." She gave them another smile before placing the linens on a chair, leaving, and closing the door behind her. "Nonsense. Naruto has told us about a small part of his life, so he needs all the happiness he can get, and by the looks of things, he couldn't be happier." The 3 of them looked into the hallway and saw that it was clear. "Well, you heard the lady, let's go get showered." They all ran into the bathroom with their towels, still naked. With a sigh, they quickly closed the room's door to avoid encountering anyone in their embarrassing attire. In order to avoid having to take another shower after they got back to their room, they washed each other's bodies, making sure to get every inch clean but not spending too much time on any one area. The students needed to be focused on the lesson, not their bodies, so they wrapped their towels around their bodies after getting completely clean and walked back to their room to change into all of their clothes, including the overcoat. A busy group of ninjas were fighting over the 1 bathroom. Well, maybe just 2, while the others were already seated for breakfast when they eventually left the room. Before they sat down to eat, the 3 said, "Morning Tsunami, Kurenai, Kakashi, Shino, and Tazuna. Where's Inari?" As the boy ran into the house, Tsunami said, "He's out doing his morning training. He keeps saying that if he wants to be like you, he needs to train harder than anyone else." His mother called out, "Inari, breakfast is ready." "Thanks Mom, I'll be right down." He and Kiba and Sakura returned a short while later, with the exception of Kiba, who went outside to eat so he could spend time with his enormous dog. They sat and ate largely in silence until the silence grew old. Naruto sipped his food and asked, "So Kakashi, Sensei, Kurenai, how are we going to divide the teachings?" "Well, we have decided that Kiba and Hinata will be teaching taijutsu basics, Shino and Sakura will take on the theories, control and maybe some medical jutsu since they are the smartest of the group and the only medic. Kurenai will take care of the genjutsu while I'll teach weapons. This leaves you and Q to teach ninjutsu since that is your strength, but don't teach them your jutsu since they could possibly die, and I'm expecting Q to supervise so we don't have a village full of kids running around with your sexy jutsu either.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.